pledge your allegiance. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for coming.
Sharon, let's get this. They put our marquee sheets out, so let's get one sheet passed around in case you have any questions.
No. What questions you have, and then Kim will collect them, and she'll compile them into one.
Thank you.
Instead of,
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming out. We are going to start with our board recognitions today. I'm turning this over to Superintendent Cash. Dr. Cash, what do you have for us today?
Good evening. Thank you, Board President Cotman. Tonight, the Buffalo Board of Education and I are delighted to recognize an exceptional group of BPS students and their teacher. Tonight's honorees have delivered, once again, a tremendous boost for Buffalo on the national stage. For the third time in recent years, Buffalo Public School students, under the direction of Milken Award-winning teacher Andrew Franz, and with tremendous support from WNY Western New York STEM Hub, will have their experiment launched into space.
Please, if you're going to be in here today, you're going to have to be orderly. Thank you. That includes the people out in the overflow. Thank you.
The students will travel to Cape Canaveral, Florida for the launch of their experiment during the spring-summer of 2020. Buffalo Public Schools Board President and WNY STEM Advisory Board member, Ms. Sharon Belton Cotman, has been a champion of each of these endeavors. First, by making a connection between Mr. Franz and WNY STEM Hub, and then supporting each of the three missions. Please welcome our BPS team from International Prep School number 198 with teacher Andrew Franz, who champions our young scientists' dreams and endeavors every day. We are so proud of Andrew and Team iPrep, and they are here now to tell us about their experiment. Andrew, I hear that students may not be here tonight, but if you could talk about it.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
delighted you're here. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Regrettably, it is flu season, so kind of wiped out our team a little bit today. But this is the third time in 4 tries that I've advised the team that we'll be sending an experiment to the International Space Station from Buffalo, New York. The first try that we did, people actually said, like, why are you even attempting? Our kids can't do that. And we've already showed them. It's 3 times. And we have a Buffalo Public Schools space program. So there's been 4 missions that have been run in Buffalo Public, or actually in Western New York. Mission 9, Mission 12, Mission 13, Mission 14. I've had teams that have competed in all of those, and yes, we've won 3 out of those 4.
Can you say that again for the listening audience? You won how many national space flight programs in how many years?
We have sent 1 experiment to space. Not pretend, not simulated, actually sent it to space, and we got 2 more going up within the next year and a half.
That's huge.
So 3 experiments. The first one, we sent potatoes into space. Actually, the second one we did already do. We did this past summer. They're presenting this spring in Washington, D.C. at the Air and Space Museum. And now we have a new team that will be sending up their experiment over this summer and then presenting in Washington, D.C. the following summer. So, yes, this is Buffalo Public Schools. We have a space program. So, the experiment from this this year is around tardigrades, which are affectionately called water bears. They're kind of in pop culture right now, but basically what they are, they're a microscopic organism that acts like any other animal. They're adorable. Look them up, Google them. You'll get a ton of pictures of them. And our kids are going to see if they can actually culture those in the International Space Station, because if we were to go to another planet one day, these would kind of be like microscopic scouts on the surface of the planet. And depending on whether they survived or not, we would have to figure out how we would be able to survive on that planet. So the research that they're doing, it isn't just, some hokey dokey kind of backyard experiment. This is something that actually will contribute to scientific endeavor in the future, and it could be a gateway for our students to Ivy League schools.
That's awesome. So, can the board members ask a couple of questions before you do that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mr. Franz, I'd like to start. Have you, if I remember right, you get to design a patch that goes on the astronaut's uniform, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, that's something that still happens. We can still do it, but unfortunately, just because of the cost constraints of the whole program, Western New York STEM Hub has kept the experimental portion, but they've dropped the patch portion.
They have?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I did go to the press release on this, and we talked about possibly doing a district-wide campaign about the water bears or the tardigrades, okay? And I mentioned it to Dr. Cash, and how do you feel about that? Because I feel we need to toot our own horn in regards to this one. And these are the most adorable creatures, and I've been listen to Darren. I've been researching them myself. As a matter of fact, I'm on a website now that sends me something every day about them.
You got tardigrade day?
Yeah. Yeah. And so they're about as big as a grain of salt, people. That's deep. Okay. Okay. So we want to talk about that. I'd like to, Dr. Cash, for you to think about that. Maybe some sort of a campaign that we can get the entire school district involved in these adorable little water bears.
Well, and I think the whole district needs to know about this too, because City Honors isn't sending experiments to space. Hutch Tech's not doing it. International Preparatory is doing it. And we want our middle schoolers. We want our kids from
If he went there, I'm going to back that up.
It's open to everybody. The competition is open to everybody. So,
there you go.
But seriously, yeah, I know. I kid a little bit. So we are the ones who are doing it, though. And we have the esports team now. We have STEAM Study Hall. I am one of the founding members of STEAM Study Hall, which is one of Dr. Cash's initiatives to try to get our kids in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. We need talented kids to come to iProp and start stepping up and being a part of the great things that we have going on in Room 1 right on 14th Street. So we have $2,000 coming from AT&T for our esports program. That's going to put big screen TVs on my wall and get my kids able to compete against high schools from all around the nation in a growing field. So I'm using this a little bit to beef us up. We need talented kids from around this district. Aides and assistants, hey, start selling us this.
Let's
Anybody here from iPrep?
Is there? Oh, yes, we do. So recognizing our constituency from iProp right now.
All right. All right.
Nice.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you, Mr. Franz.
Thank you
We'll
so
follow
much,
up.
Superintendent. Yeah, thank you.
And we do want the children to come back when they're flu-free.
Absolutely, I'll set that up. Okay, I don't want them breathing on me right now. So.
Well, hold on 1 second.
Yes.
I'm gonna, board members, I'm proposing a motion. This is a motion to support travel and lodging for Mr. Andrew Franz, chaperones and students to attend the space launch in Cape Canaveral, Florida, up to $5,000.
The date of the launch is currently scheduled for summer 2020. So the motion's on
I'll
the
second
table.
it.
First, second,
Second.
we're all set? The motion approves.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed.
Hey Lou, what you
I
think?
appreciate it.
Oh, I'm definitely in support.
All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
One other thing, you need, in addition to that, additional funds that the board cannot necessarily provide because
Correct.
we are limited as to what we can do with public funds. Do you have a website going yet, or how?
Not quite yet, but I'll get one to you shortly.
Okay, so this money would be used to do what for the children?
Take the kids to Disney World. We've done it the past 2 times on these trips. We're taking kids who have never been before, who actually have a hard time going on field trips around the city. So we get them close enough at Cape Canaveral. We figure we might as well, take them to see the mouse as well.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to ask everyone to support. It goes without saying that we have a phenomenal educator here.
Absolutely.
Okay, 3 out of 4 years, okay, you brought home the prize. And he's not going to show everyone else how to do it, so don't ask. No, just teasing. But we just want to acknowledge that's something to be proud of, and we appreciate what you do.
I'm
and
very
the children
proud of the
and
kids.
the love that you have for those children. It doesn't surprise me that they excel under you. It does not surprise me.
It's you start doing great things, and certainly I am a humble person, and I don't want to take too much credit away from the kids, but the fact that we've won 3 out of 4 is a big thing, and it just attracts talented kids. I mean, my job's getting easier and easier because the kids see what previous generations in this project have done, and they're eager and they're ready to do the work, and I don't have to argue with them to do the work anymore because they see the end game. And the Disney World thing is a good motivator. So we've been very successful, and I've been very blessed to be a part of Buffalo Public Schools.
Colleagues, oh, you got it, definitely. Let's do a picture with Mr. Franz while he's
Okay.
here.
Thank you.
I got you.
Laying down or
What?
laying down Florida?
Yeah. We no driving. I'm 2.5 day driving. Jeez.
Well, far be it from
Well,
me.
I'm getting there. I need to do more on Twitter.
The board? No, just in the middle. Everybody. And Dr. Cash?
No, I'm good here.
Good.
Maybe I do want that chair.
Yeah.
I do limp to one side, so middle's all perspective.
You could just kind of accordion in there. Everybody on the ends turn toward the middle. Andrew, you can stay just like you are. Those bookends in there. Nice, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Franz.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now, that's the best practice, Dr. Cash.
That's better than success. Hallelujah.
We are fortunate to have such excellence in our district. Very proud of our teachers and our staff. Dr. Cash, on to you. Superintendent's update.
I think you want to do the speakers first. Why don't we do that? My comments have.
Okay. Dr. Cash has asked that we change the agenda today to do the speakers, and respect that they have been working, many of them, and that they need to get home to their families. Speakers. At this time, the board welcomes speakers who have signed up to speak at tonight's meeting. Please be reminded that all speakers' remarks must be limited to 3 minutes or less. We ask that the speakers be mindful that this is a business meeting, open to the public and televised locally. Attendees and viewers include persons from throughout Western New York, including children. This board asks that speakers conduct themselves professionally and that their comments remain civil and courteous, bearing in mind that they will be heard by people of all ages. This is an opportunity for Buffalo's residents to address the Buffalo Board of Education about issues that serve the public interest and district mission, and the board asks that speakers demonstrate appropriate decorum. Thank you for joining us. Our first... Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Before we start, do we have any student groups in the house?
From schools.
No student groups today?
I think so.
Yeah. Any school?
Any students from any school?
They're in the hallway. Tell them to come in. Folks, stand up. Let's see you right here. Stand up. Please stand up. Do you want to share with us what schools are in the house today? Emerson? Mikowski?
Anybody in the overflow?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Oh, in addition to the board members that are sitting at the table, we do have a board member who is not with us today. However, he is on the phone joining us from New York City, Mr. Lou Petrucci. Okay? Thank you. All right. Okay, so let's get this conversation going on with the desk board. Tiffany Whitefield, followed by Imani Adams.
My name is Tiffany Whitefield, and I'm the band director at Waterfront Elementary, grades 4 through 8. I've been creating a community of music-loving students and parents at Waterfront since 2007, and I'm here to speak on behalf of students and parents who want chorus, band, and orchestra in all of our schools. In 2012, during the Pamela Brown administration, the district drastically cut music programs. Some of these cuts are restored, and more elementary ensembles were brought back. But we're still not back to where we were before then. Parents and students at Waterfront have always protested any cuts to that program. And thank you, we have maintained a music instrumental program, but unfortunately not our chorus. After Waterfront raised its test scores and became a school in good standing, we lost funding and could not have enough music teachers. And we have to ask every year for the band program to be restored. It's never just given to the school. Students at Waterfront deserve to have chorus as well, though. Chorus rehearsals could happen during the school day in the schedule, and we would only need 0.32 to make a full-time teacher at Waterfront. There is currently a lawsuit against the district for not offering chorus, band, and orchestras in the high schools. And some high schools offer no music classes at all. You have heard about all the studies that say how music benefits a child socially, emotionally, cognitively, increasing brain development. It's during the ensembles that these benefits occur. It's the same benefits that you get from sports. Music is equally as important to our students as sports. Don't forget about the elementary schools too during the budget process, because when a high school program starts, it shouldn't be an elementary high school program. It should be not all beginner. And finally, there have been comments from the district to the Buffalo News saying that the district is not out of compliance and that this is all just a union negotiation tactic. But the union was directed by the teachers to start the process for the lawsuit because the teachers and the students want their programs back. The union is not starting this, it's the teachers and the students. It's this time of year that we try to fix budget problems for next year before it's too late. And we're not in compliance to state guidelines for performance ensembles, band, chorus, and orchestra. They should be in every school. Students should be able to practice during the school day as a large ensemble. Buffalo school students aren't being given what they deserve. And if you look at any other schools around, outside of our district, outside of the urban area, they all have full bands, full orchestras, and choruses. I suggest creating a 9-period day by making 4 minutes out of each class so students can schedule their elective and hire a band and orchestra teacher and a general music teacher, make teachers full-time so that they can do everything that they need to do, like the ensembles, and give these high school kids a real music program, and don't forget the elementary schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Imani Adams? Student.
Hi, my name is Imani Adams, and I'm here today to speak about how schools have a right to a musical education. Musical education will always be a controversial concept for people. People sometimes wonder what musical education can do or why it is important to a school system. Well, it shows in the statistics that music programs in schools help kids, like how graduation rates are 90% better than schools without them. With a music program, kids also have better vocabulary, memorization, and how kids stay better involved in school. To us kids in school, music is a day-to-day thing, and to some like me, it's a passion. Last year, I was waiting to get into chorus, even though our school is already musically inclined in band or music classes. We don't always have the time to sing in those classes. So when I heard about chorus, I was excited, but it never happened because we wasn't provided with a chorus teacher to teach us. And on my high school applications, I picked Emerson, but found out that they didn't have a music program, and that the students that are there actually have the skills to play guitar or flute or even sing. Some of these skills we learned in middle school. We all know that Emerson is a cooking school, but there are students there that want to play music but can't because sometimes things are going on at home or can't afford lessons. This is also a problem because music is an outlet to people, and it lets them express how they're feeling, to let out emotions. All some of the great things music can do. I came here today to try to ensure that the kids under and over me at least have the right or should vote or to speak up if they want a music program. Because I'm not just here for Waterfront Elementary. I'm here for all the schools that don't have a music program. Thank you.
Can you tell us again what school you're from?
Waterfront Elementary.
And what grade are you in?
8th grade.
Thank you for representing your school.
Can I show you something that I've been working on for the talent show?
Yes.
At my school tomorrow we're having a talent show, and I'm one of the acts in it, and I'm singing a song called Born Without a Heart, and it goes like this. No, I wasn't born without a heart. I wasn't always like this. No, watched you break me. No, now you blame me. No, I wasn't born with all these scars, and that's what made me like this. No, can you blame me? No, no. Thank you.
She brought tears to my eyes. Thank you so much. Oh, we're going to have her back again. Thank you so much. You know what? We've got talent in this district. I hope I say this name correct. Akua Kamal Harris. Did I say it right? Akua. My apologies. Okay, Akua.
Oh, y'all, we in trouble now.
I didn't know that I could.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's so nice to see all your friendly faces because you are some of my favorite people. So I want to talk about my work as an aide, and also about some of the things that need to be addressed. You know, I'm a teacher's aide. Okay, I'm a retired adult education teacher. I worked here in Buffalo for about 10 years, and I worked in downstate New York for almost the same amount of years for the Harlem Center for Education, which is under a lady by the name of Miss Martin, who is in the history books as the executive director for the Civil Rights era. So I came back to Buffalo, and they said there were so many problems in the classroom because I had retired. So I said, well, how can I go back and help? After talking to some of my good friends who were involved in trying to work and change some things in the education system. So I looked, and you all were hiring aides, you were hiring teacher assistants. I said, no, I don't want to do that. I'll be an aide because I want to work with kids one-on-one. And therefore, I would have an opportunity to just sit and talk to the kids and try to encourage them to do their work. Well, I wasn't really prepared for the classroom. I didn't receive any training, and your aides are really just thrown into situations. I'll tell you something. My first day on the job as an aide, take the kids out to the playground, the kid is playing. He looks like he's about to jump down off of something. So naturally I go over there and I say, baby, come down. Because I don't want you to jump from up there. This ground is hard. You might hurt yourself. And guess what he did? He spit in my face. A big hunker. I said, oh my God. Now, imagine that I'd never been spit on before. I'm telling the truth. Never. Didn't expect it. But there's a lot of things and issues in the classroom that aides deal with that people just don't understand. We're thrown into the classrooms that we're not prepared to work in, we receive no training for. And these are troubled young people who throw chairs at us, they hit us, they kick us. I have a swollen hand now from where a student knocked me down. It wasn't the first time I've been knocked down or tripped by a student. One pushed me down some stairs, you know. But I don't give up on our kids, you know. Guess I haven't really broken anything yet. But the point is that the situation we work under is dangerous. I started working in 2011 in September, and now it's 2020. And I know we haven't received a raise or a cost of living or anything, although we did get an extra half an hour added to our duties. But for the hard work that most of the aides and assistants do, they do need a raise. And we do need training to go into these classrooms. And I think in your hearts, most of you visit these schools. You know the children that they're dealing with. You also know that you don't have enough teaching assistants. So now the aides are actually, at times, the teaching assistant in the classroom, even though they're not supposed to be, and they're not being paid in that capacity. I don't mind doing it because this is what I signed up to do, to help kids in any capacity I can. But a lot of these women and men that are working, they didn't sign up for that. They signed it up to do a job that was written, a description was given, and we're a long ways from that description. You all got to come up with another description. So I just wanted to speak to that.
Thank you so much, Sister Wells. Our next speaker is the Honorable Joanne Sweat, who is the best union president.
Good evening. Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Cash, Board President Cotman, and other distinguished board members. My name is Joanne Sweat. I'm the union president of the Buffalo Educational Support Team. I'm here representing approximately 1,000 members who are teacher assistants, teacher aides, and healthcare aides in the district. Best members are an integral part of the district. We work with students from pre-K to 12th grade, whether it is tending to the young students by helping them throughout the day, building relationships with our special ed students, maintaining safe classrooms and hallways in the upper schools, and assisting with instructions. We are constant contact with the students. We are often the first face that they see on and off the buses, welcoming them to school, and the last person they say goodbye to, rather, when they leave to go home during dismissal. We are dedicated, hard-working individuals who take pride in working in the work that we do. I am here tonight to bring forward a message of hope. For the last 7.5 years, we have attempted to negotiate a contract with the district, but that has been unsuccessful. We are among a few other bargaining units that the district has not settled a long, outstanding, expired contract. This summer will be 8 years without a contract, putting us at 11% below the poverty line due to inflation, rising costs, and lack of wage increases. A contract for our members is long overdue. I have here with me hundreds of signatures from our members asking for the district to respect and value us by negotiating a contract that is deserving of the valuable work that we do. We are hopeful you will consider our request to put forth this time and effort it takes for two parties to reach an agreement. We are not interested in surface bargaining, delayed tactics, or lip service. We want a collective relationship with the district and its representatives, and that will help us reach a goal of having a tentative agreement as soon as possible. We are committed to this process and hope you will be too. If you ever have any questions about the work that we do, I encourage you to come and see and talk to us in our building. Our work looks different every day. We are proud to serve the students of Buffalo. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak on behalf of the Buffalo Educational Support members. And have a good evening. I have our petitions for the board president.
Thank you, President Joanne Sweat. And thank you, teacher aides and teacher assistants, for the jobs that you do each day. Our next speaker is Charlie H. Fisher III, followed by Dwayne Taplin. They are from the Coalition for Fair, Free, and Equitable Athletics. One moment, Mr. Fisher. If you are in the process of leaving, please do so quietly. We will wait until you leave before we allow our speakers to move forward. One moment, Mr. Fisher.
All right.
Let your people in. Lou, what is happening is that the less members are leaving as the Coalition for Fair, Free, and Equitable Athletics comes in.
Thank you, Sharon.
forward. We will wait until there's order in the room. Is he here? Is Dave here? What is it?
Bring the volume down. Bring the volume down just a little bit. Thank you.
All right, we're getting there slowly but surely. We're allowing people the time to clear the area so that we can have and give the undivided attention to Mr. Charlie Fisher and Dwayne Taplin of Coalition for Free, Fair, and Equitable Athletics.
Please bring the volume down. Expect to keep this up. Thank you.
Okay, so we're good. Are we okay, Officer Wine?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fisher.
Madam President, officers, members of this honorable body, Superintendent Cash, administration officials, teachers, parents, and citizens, good evening. I come before you today, the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., who would have been 91 years old today had he lived. I come as the past education chair of the Common Council, past president of the Build Organization, and the Youth Planning Council of the Near East Side. And I am a member of the newly formed Coalition for a Fair, Free, and Equitable Athletics. Distinguished members, I'm here today to request you to adopt a resolution and to establish a policy for the Buffalo Public Schools rejecting the Section 6 Football Federation proposal to realign 63 public schools in 9 categories. I, along with Patrick Freeman, who's here, and former county legislator George Holt, led the effort to move the Buffalo Public Schools into Section 6. It was a challenging and daunting task. They required our facilities to be upgraded. We had to end the decade-old Turkey Bowl. We had to build budgets around the schools and also surrender the Harvard Cup. No one believed that there would be, in just a few short years, Madam President, such a great success, that our children would do so well and thrive. Section 6 Football Federation is made up of 32 members. The Buffalo Public Schools only have 4 representatives out of that 32. And of the 8 executive officers, none are from Buffalo. This action, which they have done, I believe, is motivated to undermine the current playing field and, if you will, excuse the pun, move the goalposts because of subsequently the success of our children. The CFFEA, the coalition, strongly urges you to inform the Federation that you are diametrically opposed to the plan, and that includes your athletic department. And here are some of the options that are being considered. Number 1, demand that the Buffalo Bills and the NFL cancel the use of New Era Field if we are not heard, because the Section 6 championships are there. Secondly, legally sue in Article 78 and enjoin them from any action. As I close, we want certainly home rule messages from the Common Council, County Legislature, the State Assembly, the State Senate, and others. And also support from our representatives at the New York State Regents. We believe you will give us every consideration. Others are here from the coalition. Please hear them. For the citizen hears the voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Dwayne Taplin.
Madam President, I'm just a voice in the wilderness, and I'm a spokesman for the community that I represent, which is the inner city student athletes in Buffalo, New York. God be with me, undeniable truths. There's an abhorrent disservice and prejudicial injustice that unfortunately has beamed an injurious and deadly projectile that's targeting our predominantly African-American inner city high schools, and in particular, the inner city schools who participate in Section 6 interscholastic high school football. We all know that there was a decision and a vote that at first was proposed, then it was adopted, and it will be implemented and executed on next season. This vote was done in a shroud of secrecy. This vote was accomplished by people 19 to 11, a total of 30 votes that were tallied, that the community, the public, we have no idea who the people were who cast these votes. We have no idea who was the sanctioning body that governed these same people, that authorized these select people to cast this vote that will subsequently change the landscape of Western New York football. And when I say change the landscape of Western New York football, it's because against all odds, our children, for the past 10 years, after the Harvard Cup was dissolved, they put forth their efforts with poor facilities, initially poor coaching. They do not have their own practice fields right behind their school like the suburban schools. But due to their unyielding resiliency, our children, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, their unyielding resiliency, their intestinal fortitude, without the help of the community, without the help of me standing there guiding them, they rose above that. And then they climbed the ladder of competitive success. And on this past season, if we're all aware of it, they were on the pinnacle, on the verge of interscholastic dominance in Western New York. There's only 6 teams, if we include our first cousin, who is the charter school, Health Sciences. There's only 5 Buffalo public schools, but it isn't, because there are other schools that are attached to the 5 primary schools. So it's more than just the 5 Buffalo public schools. It entails all of them that participate in Western New York playing football. So there's a disguise right there. That it's a detriment across a much larger spectrum than we even want to address. But with that being said, I also have to say, to my next point, give me 2 more minutes, please, I beg of you. It was a plan that was devised to make it appear as though our teams are being fairly and equally across the board, receiving all the same amenities as Section 6. It's a trick in there, because our teams will be forced to play against each other 5 games out of the season. We will be, as I've been told, thrown where we came from 10 years ago in the backyard. And we will not be able to participate across the large spectrum, the demographics of Western New York. And then we will be allowed 2 games. So the system, this systemic system will say, we told you, you still can vie for an athletic state championship in football. You still can participate against the city schools, the suburban schools in football. And not only that, you can still play at New Era Field. But with the way the new format and the realignment has been established, that's not necessarily true. It was brought to my attention by the coaches of these teams that, number one, because we'll be classified AA, 2 AA teams, 2 A teams and 1 B team, that we will not ever be able to accumulate enough points generated during the course of the season, because we won't be fairly playing against the other AA teams in the area. So we will never be able to accumulate, according to their new established alignment for points and consideration for playoffs, that opportunity to even make it. It'll become more difficult for us to make it to New Era Field. These were annually, and I'm going to close, annually and traditionally, these were spots that were reserved for our suburban counterparts to play at New Era Field, to have their families come out in all the excitement and be able to embrace all the enjoyment of seeing their children playing at the NFL stadium, coming out of the locker room, running through the tunnel. But our last season, out of the 6 teams from the inner city, because the landscape was changing, 3 of our teams were there. 3 of them. I am going to close with this. I did not introduce myself at the beginning of this. I told you I am a voice in the wilderness. My voice doesn't appear to be transcending across many lines. Hopefully today it has. Hopefully our children will have access. Our children will be allowed to participate with all the equal, fair, and equitable rights that our coalition stands for. And anything less than that, to the board, to our political leaders, to our clergymen, to our community, anything less than that, it takes us back to the early 1950s. These esteemed gentlemen right here is a small fraction, and I do mean a very small fraction, of those who will continue to participate in hoping that this solution will be resolved. Thank you.
Board members, I would like to pose a motion to concede time. First, is Mike here for busing?
I'm here.
I do see Mike. I'd like to concede time to be able to concentrate on this and give a couple extra minutes and let them go first. Have you go at the end, and we're willing to do an, as long as we're not a half an hour a piece, folks. But I'd like to put a motion on the table to concede some extra time to address this issue.
Second.
So I propose the
Is all
motion.
in agreement with that? It's been first and second?
I'm all in agreement.
Who first approved it?
Larry first, who second? Who seconded it?
Okay, all right, second. Anyone
favor?
opposed to this?
All in favor?
All in favor? All right.
All right. Thank you.
What we're going to do, based on Vice President Makouzi, is we're going to, and thank you, Mike, for letting us proceed. We're going to have Patrick Freeman come, and we're going to have Kevin Simpson, who are both speaking on Section 6. And then following that, we will turn over the mic to Mike Mattel. Gentlemen, you have been allowed an additional minute or so. Please take advantage of that. Yes.
I do want to point out that, Mike, you also have a minute or two extra for allowing folks to speak before you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm going to need at least that much.
Thank you. Pat Freeman is next, and then Kevin Simpson.
Good evening. To the Superintendent, Dr. Kreiner, Board of Education President Sharon Belton Cotman, Board of Education members, citizens at large. My name is Pat Freeman, the Mighty Oval. I am a columnist for the Buffalo Criterion newspaper and co-host of Pro Talk Plus, which airs at 105.5 FM out of Rochester, New York. Formerly of WFO Radio for 25 years as their sports director. I'm here to ask the board and the superintendent specifically to take full legal action to remedy this recent decision. Section 6 reassigned the Buffalo Public School System. They did not try to fix a leak. What they did, they reassigned the Buffalo Public School football teams. This action appears was done in a malicious fashion, which in results will injure the opportunities of the city's football participants and coaches. This action, though stated was to help, in fact injures the city of Buffalo football participants. In turn, it creates an unlevel playing field when the goal of Section 6 was to create a level opportunity for all. Because this action results in a long-term injury to those that participate now and in the future, we ask that legal action be taken by the board on behalf of our children, along with proper legal steps against Section 6, so that we must not return to litigate this issue that we litigated 20 years ago.
Right.
We also ask that the legal action be taken versus Section 6 because of the lack of city representation on their executive board, and this proposal, which was put in place without the second largest city in New York State participating. This, to me, is an abominable action against our children. And the majority of our children are people of color. And to me, reeks of racism, the word that most people are afraid to talk about. Not I. It has to be confronted. It has to be determined to be wrong. And this action against Section 6 in closing hurts a majority of children of color, both now and in the future. And I'm asking this board and this superintendent to take full legal action to make sure that it is rescinded and that we don't have to revisit this again. Thank you so much.
Mr. Kevin Simpson.
Can everyone hear me? First, I would like to thank President Cotman and distinguished members of the school board for allowing me to ask these pertinent questions. My name is Kevin Simpson, and I stand before you, a concerned citizen with a strong background in athletics. To my understanding, one of the incentives that was presented to the Buffalo Public Schools to join Section 6 and sacrifice 105 years of tradition was to establish a regional pipeline for all Western New York, rural, suburban, and city athletes to be exposed to regional and national recruiters. Second, what was the voting process back then for entering and now for the removal of Buffalo Public Schools from Section 6? Who cast these votes? How were the votes casted? But most importantly, what has changed in such a short period of time between Buffalo Public Schools' entrance and now removal from Section 6? Third, were there violations or infractions showing cause for dismissal of Buffalo Public Schools from Section 6? If so, then what were they, and are they documented? Finally, what will be the financial and social impact of Section 6 decisions on the athletes, the coaches, and the community? What will it cost the taxpayers of Buffalo to reestablish the Harvard Cup? Emotionally, how can Section 6 reimburse or compensate the citizens of Buffalo for 105 years of lost history and tradition of the Harvard Cup? I yield back my time, and I would like to thank each member of the board in advance for seeking these future answers to these pertinent questions. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, Dr. Cash would like to address you gentlemen before he leaves. One of the board members has requested a copy of your questions. I'd also like to say before Dr. Cash addresses the question is that also sitting in our audience tonight is Honorable April Baskin, Chairwoman of the Erie County. We want to thank her for coming out and address and assisting us with this concern. Thank you.
Colleagues, good evening, and I want to certainly thank you for your eloquent and concise presentation tonight, not only about the history of the Buffalo Public Schools football programs, but also some of the, I think, significant concerns that you have about the recent decision. Let me suggest a few things in response to what I've heard this evening. First, I prepared a statement and was on the radio last week when asked to write a statement. I wrote this statement, and it said, when I was asked, what is your response to this decision? I said I was concerned that the Section 6 decision makers did not seek broad stakeholder input and be more inclusive and transparent regarding such a high impact decision for so many programs. For example, no superintendents were asked to vet the proposal. Therefore, it is worthwhile to request that the Section 6 officials withdraw the current decision and start a fresh process with the concerns of multiple stakeholders more thoroughly considered.
Right.
Now that statement and that approach has been on the radio, but decisions are moving sort of quickly, and I still think these issues are pertinent. So what I've tried to do is keep it fluid. And by fluid, I mean before the door is shut or before we get into a high impact adversarial position with Section 6, because you know what you're dealing with. I've been able to get a meeting this Friday with Ken Stolt and other officials from this, I think it's called an athletic council with a football committee. And I'd like to invite several of you, whoever you consider your leadership to be, up to 3, to join me in that meeting, and that we continue to try to keep this fluid. There's no reason why, at least at this time, we can't reconsider and say, let's continue to work through this before we make such a radical decision. Now, it is my understanding that we're not kicked out of Section 6. My understanding we're still in Section 6, and I'm going to give a little presentation on that in my update in a few moments. But there are significant equity issues. There are issues of isolation that I don't think is a forward step. It feels like a backward step for us. Now, I'm just being frank with you, I'm one that if you don't want me, I'm going to create my own thing, and it's going to be better than all of you. I'm just talking to you straight. And we can do that. But before we do that, we don't just go easily into the night. Okay? So that's why I'm going to try to keep it fluid. If we want a resolution, certainly the board can develop that. We welcome your articulate input to such a resolution that I can consider and help continue to craft for the board. And we can certainly consider legal action. I think it should be a part of strategy. But I think things should happen like this, and it needs to happen quickly. And first, I want to begin with this meeting to try to get them to understand the impact of this on the largest part of Erie County football programming. So that's just what I want to say tonight. There are community meetings continue to happen. You should join those wherever you feel it appropriate to be. But I and the board will continue to push this issue to stay in as is. Is that what I'm hearing? Stay in as is?
Correct.
And then see what our options are. We've already petitioned to go into ECIC piece of this, which is a league of, and they rejected that request. And that came from the coaches and came from officials who are on that 32-member council. So we'll continue to educate the public, and we'll continue to weigh all options around this equity and justice issue.
I also like to say, Dr. Cash, that today the BTF did a press release, and the BTF calls for legal action against Erie County Interscholastic Conference. And it has been released, but in short, it says that and I'll read it, the call by the Erie County Interscholastic Conference denying the Buffalo Public School football team entry into Erie County Interscholastic Conference will not go unchallenged. Quote, as I related to Board President Sharon Belton Cotman, the Buffalo Teachers Federation will join with the district and parents in legal action against what appears to be discrimination against our children, whether it be the courts or charges under the Title 4 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, and religion in public schools. The Buffalo teachers will be there to support our students, stated by Phil Rumore, president of the Buffalo Teachers Federation. So as you can see, people are aligning with you gentlemen, and I appreciate the fact that you came out. It is warming to my heart to see the representation. We have the majority of men, but there's still a lady standing there with them. Does any other board member would like to comment on this? Mr. Scott?
So thank you for being here. You've helped inform me a little bit more on this matter. I am personally, as a board member, as a community member, disgusted at this decision. I think it reeks. I am not happy with it, and I think we as a board have a responsibility to draft a statement, draft a resolution. If we have to come back tomorrow to get it done, whatever it takes, I think this board needs to make a clear statement that we want this addressed to the fullest extent possible. And we will fight to get that done. I don't know what path we can take to do that, but I feel that we have a responsibility to do that.
Well, we certainly can explore that. Any other board members would you like to?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
First of all, I would like to thank the Coalition for the Free and Fair and Equitable Athletics to come out tonight to help support in this matter. Myself as a board member only have one vote, but with the community, we are fierce that we can accomplish anything that we put our hearts and mind to, and to uphold the reputation of our kids, to put forward their hearts and their futures, and for you to take the time out to come out tonight means so much to me that we can get something accomplished. We have Richard Cummings over here, who's the head of the. You can introduce yourself. I'd like to introduce yourself.
The Black Chamber of Commerce president.
Black Chamber of Commerce president. So we know that we have many organizations that stand here united in this front for equal justice, equality, and also for the future of our children. I'd just like to say that some things that wasn't stated tonight is that by joining the Section 16 years ago, our kids had the opportunity to receive college scholarships in Division I, Division II colleges. And they're being stripped of that right now due to this decision. This is a racial injustice, and I will stand by that, and I will stand firm on that. And anybody who comes against it, I will fight them, until we get results and get justice in this matter. So whatever we need to do, Dr. Cash, I'm proposing that we work together to make sure this gets accomplished. And I know there's a lot more of you guys that will come out and support. I know this is just the beginning, and so that I just wanted to let you know that the board is standing behind you and standing by us about making some progress immediately. And there's a time sensitivity also,
right?
Because since the decision was made, that means we have 14 days after the final decision to get something done. So time is of the urgency right now that we get formulated. So this meeting on Friday, are we invited also?
Well, I don't know if we want to overwhelm these people right now because it's a sensitive, that we got to get it. The bottom line is to get it done, not to make them double down. Would you agree? Right. And some of you who've been here historically know what we're up against because we're up against it in a larger sphere.
Every day.
So you got to be sharp, political. So Will, if you can get 3 names from these colleagues, those are the ones I'd like to see come. If you want a board representative, I would recommend that. And I'm bringing some of the coaching representatives.
Thank you.
And then we're going to have this meeting. And again, I would like to try to work it out so that they can fresh start the process and reconsider the decision. Because I don't think they thought it all the way through. Because I'm giving them that benefit. Because if you have thought it all the way through, that means it's really deleterious. So I want to do that. And Will, if you could do that and get that done, then we'll continue.
So as a board, we have one parent whose child is impacted by this. You have a problem having that person represent the board. You have a problem with that? Okay. What time is the meeting, Dr. Cash? Do you know?
Hannibal?
11 o'clock. 11 o'clock.
In my office.
Do you guys understand what I'm saying? We have a board member that is going to advocate not only as a member of the board, but as a parent as well. Are you in agreement with that? Okay, that would be Terrence. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
Terrence.
Yes, Paul, would you like to say something too?
You know, I think it's a shame that they moved the goalposts when our children are starting to win. And they're getting their scholarships and they're outstanding. And I just want you to understand that we need 5 votes. I'm solidly behind you. We have the 5 votes. We have So I want to state that I've been in major conversations with folks in the past few days about this, and the one talking point that I would hope would be passed along is Buffalo has 36,000 kids, and these districts that are represented sure do not. So when we have that many kids that are going to be missing out on opportunities that 500 kids might be able to partake in, and out of those 500 there's 20 or 30, this is what I'm hearing from different stakeholders in the community, is if we got 10, 12 high schools and we still, you know, we still are being treated in this manner, and you're not uplifting an inner city school, if you care about kids on that level, then what you're doing as adults. So that's the outrage that I'm hearing on top of everything you're speaking. So let's talk about it. They come up with, well, you have the, let's be real, the violent issues and all that. If you look at those suburban districts, I guarantee you, they got more issues with one school than we got with 10. So let's bring up how we roll and how I'm so proud to see y'all here. Yes. Please educate the community on what you know, because a lot of people aren't understanding, you know, that it ain't their thing, but they're mad about it. So please get out there as much as you can. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Are we through with the discussion? No?
So what can we do? The meeting is on Friday. What can we do?
Just a meeting.
A meeting. But what can we do as a board to get something official?
To get something
approved
today,
here that the superintendent can
take to that meeting.
To take to that meeting.
So we would have to, if I'm correct, correct me if I'm wrong, the superintendent would have to move it forward to the board. We would work on that, and the superintendent would propose it today, and then we would move it forward. He has the authority to do that at a short-term notice.
Mr. Fisher, can you, between you and the gentleman that spoke after you, and the gentleman in the yellow tie, you
and
have
the mighty MOBA.
You have some very good substance for and Rochester 95. You have some substance to present a great resolution for consideration. And since you have such a firm handle on it, it would be helpful to propose something to us, you know, no more than 7 or so whereases, and let us edit it from there and make it go.
Who will work with them?
Because I think you're the knowledge makers.
We'll work with them on that.
Yes, we'll work.
It'll be forthcoming.
Okay, and can we?
Well,
can we do that today? Do you have the time
tomorrow?
now?
Tomorrow would be great.
Tomorrow, how would we pass the resolution? We would have to have a special meeting if that's not.
Well, they can't. You don't want them to go right this up now?
Yeah, I do.
Hey, can they pass pending? And then can they do an email pass, or do they have to do it in person? Can't do it.
They said they're ready to go.
We're ready to go right now.
Okay, hold it. So our legal counsel
and
Will meet with you in the room. I think there's a room over there on the side over there by IT, if I'm not mistaken. And they will pull together the resolution. It will be brought back before the board. We will craft something. Perfect. And if in the event that it's not perfect, don't panic. We can always come back and amend it at another time. Okay? All right. I want to thank you guys for coming out. It's been very pleasing, and thank you. And please don't stop. We need you. Our students need you. Okay. All right. Once these guys clear, we're going to let Mike Matilli, did I say it right, Mike? Parent, and he's concerned about busing, and obviously he's concerned about what's happening with Section 6 because he allowed these gentlemen to go before him, and we appreciate that. Thank you. And you have additional time if you so desire.
Well, the issues of Section 6 are kind of systemic, aren't they? Things we've been dealing with in this community and this country for decades, for generations, for hundreds of years. And we need to confront these issues. But today, I am speaking specifically on the matter of busing. And I think busing is an issue. And that it just reverberates with the bigger issues that surround Section 6. And I'd like to say specifically, I'm glad I'm going to get a few more minutes, because between 11:30 a.m. yesterday and approximately 6 a.m. this morning, someone associated with this board, I don't know if it's an employee or who, opened up a can of worms. And it's going to take more than 3 minutes to put the worms back in the can. So I have been instructed by my wife to make it clear and unequivocal that she has not complained about any busing personnel. She's not complained about any personnel that employed by the school district. Okay? Now I take full ownership for everything I'm about to say next. No one has put me up to what I'm about to say next. It's just me. Okay? Because I was confronted this morning by a bus aide. Why was my wife complaining about the busing? My wife doesn't even have the same last name as me. You can see from my name on the list, it's clearly Mike Mattel has a busing issue. But yet the bus aide was confronted with the fact that that my wife is complaining about the busing. Now, my wife is one of 2 attorneys that works for the local union, the local teachers union. And so it seems to me that it's politics as usual. That somebody is putting ink in the water and trying to use divide and conquer to divide and conquer one group of working class Americans against another. And this is an ongoing issue that we have in this country. And what I find particularly problematic, and I'll speak again specifically to the busing issue, that we have a couple of bus routes that seem to be problematic. So let me get onto those first. Bus route 556, bus route 407, bus route 337. That all serve Bennett Park Montessori Center. Let me make this clear. That this year, I have not had one problem with busing. I am very pleased, personally, with busing. Also, it just so happens to be that my bus goes down Chapin Parkway, one of the wealthiest and whitest streets in this city. But I haven't had a problem with busing. What I'm curious to find out is, where does bus route 556, 407, and 337, our problem children? What neighborhoods do those bus routes serve? Not only have I not had problems, but I am exceptionally pleased with the service we've received, which is why it was so hurtful to be confronted by our bus aide, whom I love. Why? Because she loves our children. Because I feel that she treats our children the same way, with the same respect and dignity that she treats her own grandchildren. So there are no complaints about our bus personnel. The complaint is this persistent problem of 556, 407, 337 specifically, but more generally, there is this perception, this attitude, that First Student, the corporation, is being protected. Because we are getting pushback from school board members saying that we have to contact First Student. First Student has the problem. Call First Student. We get pushback from principals. You have to contact First Student. First Student's the one with the problem. So it seems like everyone's singing from the same hymnal about First Student, which leads me to wonder, who's First Student's lobbyist? Because apparently the parents of the Buffalo Public Schools should hire this lobbyist, because this is a powerful and good lobbyist. And so it does not surprise me that it's the bus personnel who, from what I can see, and in my experience, are predominantly African American, working class African American. And it is not surprising that the parents of the Buffalo Public Schools, who are predominantly African American, and from the data I've seen, working class and working African American, that these two groups are getting pitted against each other, and First Student is not being held accountable. Because here's the fact. I'm not a shareholder in First Student. I'm not a board member of First Student. I can't go into First Student's board meetings. I can't go to their shareholder meetings and complain. But I can come here to this board and complain. And so what I'm wondering is, are we, as a community, being penny wise and pound foolish? Because I wonder what happens when it's not an adult, a grown man, married to an attorney, also an attorney, a grown man who can use an iPhone to follow the app and make phone calls on the spot. What happens when it's a sibling? What happens when it's a child, an older brother, an older sister, in the middle of February or March, sitting on a street corner waiting forever, doesn't have access to the app, doesn't have access to an iPhone, and wondering if a bus is coming, when it's coming, and maybe it never comes. This is a management issue. It's a management issue. And management issues are leadership issues. Leadership controls management. So I can call and I can make trouble, or I can speak, but there's a whole lot of children in this school district that don't have the same voice, that aren't able to come up and maybe speak and address the issues as eloquently. Maybe they don't know that they aren't allowed at a board meeting, in First Student board meeting, or maybe they don't know they're not allowed to speak at a shareholders meeting in First Student. But now they know they can come here and speak if they want to, but I find that very unlikely. So we have to address this First Student problem, because it's January and we're getting complaints again. Same old with First Student. So are we being penny wise and pound foolish? And I would even go to the extent of looking at the district running their own bus operation. Because you can't just look at the cost of running the bus. You can't just look at the cost of running the contract. You also have to consider the secondary and tertiary effects. First of all, students not showing up for school. When students don't show up for school, that hits our bottom line. That hits federal funding, as far as I know. Right? Absentee counts. Absentees matter. That affects our bottom line. Now, secondary effects. Parents. When a bus doesn't show up, parents have to take off of work. They have to take off of work and take their children to school if they have the ability to do that. Secondary effects. Secondary effects as a cost to this community. And finally, tertiary effects. The overall economy, when students, the ones who need to get to school the most, are least likely to get to school. Because I don't care what anybody says about trickle-down economics, that lie we've been told for the last 60 years. We're starting to figure it out, get wise to it, that the economy doesn't trickle down. We have to lift it from the bottom up. From the bottom up. That's the students. When I look at the data and I see the economics and I see where these students are coming from, that's the Buffalo Public School students right here. So let's not be pound wise or penny wise and pound foolish. Now I also would like to thank, this is another related circumstance, no, another related issue. Because I'm not sure that all of my fellow citizens of Buffalo realize what Ms. Paulette Woods did in the November meeting. In the November meeting. At the very end of the meeting, the very last thing, right before the meeting ended, you said we should look at separating the school funding from city funding.
The custody of the cash.
That's right. That's right. Who has supervisory control, right? Because right now, the city controller of the city of Buffalo oversees the larger budget, right? And separating those two. So as the school budget isn't buoying the city budget.
Okay.
And what I find so impressive about that is that you went, just tiptoed quietly, ever so quietly, on the edge of the New York State political branch and took a great big jump and shook that branch, rattled that branch.
Thank you.
No. Because you probably know, as well as I do, that groups that are usually at odds, political groups that are usually at odds in this city, all circle around to support a controller who was going to cover for our mayor. No,
Okay.
no,
All
we
right,
didn't
so-
do that.
All right, so we would love to hear more of this conversation. We've allowed you a significant time. Is it possible that we could get your contact information and Mrs. Woods can talk with you and you can help her strategize on that?
Well, here's the thing: is that I can already tell you're backing away from what I'm saying, and that's fine. You can back away and say that maybe that's not what I'm saying. That's not what you intended to do, or that's not what you did. But that is actually, in fact, from what I can see, that's what you did. And I think that the citizens of Buffalo need to know that and be aware of that.
Our resolution is to obey New York State education law,
Mm-hmm.
put custody of our funds in accordance with the law, and to earn additional revenue for the Buffalo schools. It's good management.
It is good management, exactly. But what people don't understand is the underlying political issues at play here.
Okay, I think we do. We need to, though. We do need to conduct business, and you guys can definitely strategize that.
No, like I said, I take full responsibility of what I said. What I said.
Okay,
So I'm sorry. Thank you so much for speaking. Well, yes, Mr. Hurd.
I just want to ask one question because I know it's time sensitive, and I would like to speak to you later at another time also.
Okay.
And but to the defense of my board here, I take offense to when you say that we've been undercut, or that we're taking, or anybody on the board is taking anything from a bus company. In that behalf, and I'm going to stand by my board by that because I don't think anybody is of that character.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we have exceptional people on this board, and I'm going to protect them also for that.
Well, I appreciate that.
But I would like to speak with you later another time.
Okay, but I appreciate you saying that. But yet, we are still getting pushback that we have to contact first student. That's the parent's job to contact first student. It's not the parent's job to contact first student.
Let's talk.
That's a leadership job.
Let's talk.
That's the job of the leadership. So I'm sorry, but New York State politics, as it is.
Okay, so then we're wrapping this up. We're not gonna take this any further. I will also share with you that we do have committee meetings that go over certain issues, and the agenda is put out. You are welcome to come and assist with that as well. I can tell that you're very concerned about what we're doing here, and we appreciate that. But in moving forward, we need to move forward. If the secretaries will be able to provide his contact information to both board members, and he will be able to speak with you at a later time. Thank you so much for your patience and your advocacy. Dr. Cash, do you have any comments or any response to the speaker?
I think at this time, colleagues, we've talked. I've responded to the Section 6 group, the music education. Certainly we all share the passion for a rich and robust, comprehensive music program. I think we've already agreed to have a work session where I bring you up to date on that issue more comprehensively. I thought the student was fabulous in her voice and presentation. And the gentleman who just spoke, Mr. Mattil, we're happy to speak about any specific busing issues. I wasn't aware of what he was alluding to with the 3 bus routes. That didn't become clear. But certainly, colleagues, if you want to reach out again, as you have already tried to do, Al and Cheryl, with this gentleman, to find out what he's alluding to with these 3 bus routes, and we'll continue to work through any issues. So I think that would be enough of a response tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so before we move into the next step, Board Member Makuzi, you have any?
Board members, I'd like to propose a motion to excuse Hope J. She's out of the country, and I just want to put that on record. And Lou Petrucci as well. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, are you still on the phone?
I'm still on the phone, Jen.
I'm sorry, Lou.
I'm told you still have to be excused from the physical.
I
so
do.
I'm proposing that motion for both you and Hope J.
First,
Thank you, Jen.
Who was second? Second. Okay. And
all in favor? Who first?
You made the motion, right?
I made the motion.
Who's first? Okay, second. Yay vote, is everyone in agreement with that?
All right.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Colleagues, I have 4 brief items for my update. I made an amendment, or a change, I should say, an adjustment, an amendment to my report. I had originally planned to go through from point of beginning to point now on this whole section 6, give a timeline, the people involved, the action, all of that. And rather than do that, I mean, I can if you'd like to, but I think we certainly will pass out to you. Mr. Annaball, if you could come up, it might be useful just to hit a few of the points, 3 or 4 of the points, and share the document with you. You can have the document. I'm not sure we need to go through all of it because we've had a sort of a decision going forward on how we're going to continue. But I do think sometimes it's helpful to educate the public because there is misinformation out there. And I just wanted Mr. Solar to help with that part of it. So if you, it's up to the board, but if you don't mind, he has maybe a 7-minute presentation that could help clarify some of the points that have been made.
So would you be also able to share this on our website?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this will be posted on the website as well.
And colleagues, as you read through, some of you have been involved in this. If you see any major omission or inaccuracies in this, certainly feel free to share that with me, and then I'll get it corrected before we put it on the website.
I do feel that it's important to our listening audience, our viewing audience, that we at least address who, what, when, where, why, and how.
Fair.
Okay, at least that today. All right?
Okay.
You might want
So, to that end, I've directed Associate Superintendent Mr. Annaball Solar to provide a comprehensive timeline, who's involved, nature of the action, if any action was taken, and the current source materials. The source materials are important if we proceed to different phases of this work, and then what is the current status. So, Annaball, we appreciate it. In particular, Annaball, as you go through, you've done an excellent job on this. Talk about anything that needs that you know is out there in the public domain that may be inaccurate, and we need to be helpful in correcting the information.
Thank you, Dr. Cash, and board members. So I've tried to put together as comprehensive as possible a timeline. It's organized by dates from the earliest date to the most current, and actually even includes the meeting that we're going to be having Friday that we got set up with Section 6 to continue our conversations and dialogue around how to bring hopefully some correction to a proposal. So this conversation, one thing that I think that's out there, that this has kind of been out here for a while, and it hasn't. It's been out here since November. So it's a very something that kind of was just proposed. So I started here where they shared it with the athletic council and just so you have an understanding the way it works, we have a seat on the athletic council. We have a seat. It's either myself or it would be the director of athletics. One or the other would be their representative at the athletic council. So that's when we were made aware in November. And again, I'm going to kind of skip through a couple of them because I don't want to read every line by line for you, but you have this to peruse, and if you have questions or if you see something that's missing, please let us know. At that point, as soon as I knew that this was even being proposed, a correspondence literally the next day came from the executive director of Section 6, basically saying there's going to be a potential action item on this literally the next day for this in December. And so if you see a week later, I informed in my regularly scheduled one-on-one the superintendent to be mindful that this is something that's being, proposed, and the request was stay involved, stay informed, and keep him posted as we went along. I immediately got that proposal. I immediately emailed it to the coaches for review so that they can immediately dig into it and provide me the feedback, since they would be at the front lines. And you can see that that had occurred just literally a week or two right after we got the information. So as you look through the timelines, again, Monday, November 25th, I emailed the Section 6 after meeting with the coaches on the 21st, before Thanksgiving break, to make sure that I got with them before, and board member Terrence Hurd was there at that meeting to also be involved in that dialogue. We met off school property and we had that conversation in November. We put together feedback. I reached out immediately to Section 6 to share our concerns. Many of the same ones that you heard our stakeholders share, we have been sharing since day one, in writing, via phone, and every time we have an opportunity. We then got an email from Ken Stoltz basically responding back to me that some final details still needed to be ironed out. That was November 26th, after, again, I reached out to them. Monday, December 2nd, we had an email to all the Section 6 members. And so you just have to understand that 30 members, all the leagues are represented, all the athletic directors that represent each unit. So one misinformation that's out there is the votes. There's 30 votes. We get 4 votes. Most districts get 1 vote. So I think just that needs to be understood, that because of our scale, we do get 4 votes. Okay, so I just want to make sure that that's some clarity on there. So it's not still proportional, it's not still given the number of our kids, but we do get additional votes because of our scale and size. So we then received a communication on December 13th that basically said the electronic email vote was going to happen, and that we need to have it in by the 20th of December, which, if you looked at our calendar, was right before heading into the holiday break. We submitted our votes after I got feedback. We submitted 4 no votes. Thursday the 19th. We have record of that as well. Go to the backside. Again, just some key points. On January 6th, immediately returning from break, we received the decision. And the decision obviously was not something that we wanted. It was a 19 yes, 11 no. The resolution had passed that we would go back and return to what's called league play. And again, for clarity, we did have a league 10 years ago. We were asked to basically disband that and join into this federation play. And what federation play means is we play our schools that are AA, like a Hutch Tech, play similar schools of the same size that they would eventually see in the postseason and potentially in the championship game. Putting us back into a Harvard Cup style would inherently create inequities against ourselves. And that's something that many of the coaches didn't want, along with some of the other challenges around exposure as well. So we were, again, not happy with that. We then got an email, again, the same day, basically from Ken Stolt with pertinent information around this point system that they have rolled out. Again, not much feedback around it, but they did roll it out. They did explain to it. They did provide examples of how the point system would work. That teams, all teams in our league, I was told, would have the opportunity to still make postseason and compete and still be a number 1 seed. We obviously disagree with some of that interpretation, but that's their argument to us. We also had the news article, which I think is important to come out. A news article came out on the 7th where obviously I was quoted as saying that the optics around this made it look very segregated, and basically shared our displeasure with the decision. as a result of that, we did get together. I did call on behalf of Dr. Cash, the president of Section 6, on January 7th to, again, share our concerns, but also to return his call because he was concerned around individuals reaching out directly to him as members of this board, reaching out directly to him in Section 6. We shared our concerns. Again, I asked, I sent an email to Ken Stowe asking him, how do we petition? Because that was what the coaches had said should be our first option when we huddled up together. If we would have gotten into the ECIC, which we did not, the argument would have been a moot point. We would have been playing similar schools like we've been playing the last 10 years, which is why we pursued that as the first option, again, based on coach input, and board member Terrence Hurd was in that meeting as well. They were all on board with that as the first option in terms of the proposal as how we would try to go about working within the system to advocate for our schools. Obviously, when we got the results of the petition, which is on the backside, we got the outcome that we did not get into the ECIC league. And I just want to make a point of order clarity here. Typically, I meet with superintendent on Fridays for my one-on-one. I was not able to meet with Dr. Cash last Friday for my one-on-one, given some other things that he was dealing with. So we circled back up on Monday, and that's when I notified him that evening of the petition results and things of that nature. So I know there's some misinformation around when Dr. Cash knew and when he didn't know. So I just want to make sure we inform him as we know, typically through our regular scheduled times. But in this case, I immediately followed up with him that Monday and sent him some of the information electronically so he could have prior to our meeting. So I want to make sure that that's clear. Obviously, this past Tuesday, we had an interview with a couple of our coaches with Channel 7, kind of sharing their perspective of what this impact means to them. And then we've obviously proactively scheduled this game for meeting with Section 6 to continue to have this dialogue because, again, we still have some challenges, some misinformation, and we want to really truly feel what's in the best interest of our kids really gets communicated. So, again, really quickly I went through this. I would encourage you to read line by line so you can kind of get, I've included the issue, I've included the people involved as I've had them documented, I've included any actions that we've taken, and then I've also put sources. So we do have anything that I have listed. I do have copies of emails and communications. Again, depending on where this goes in the Dr. Cash's direction, if we ever need to use any of those items.
Section 6, are we kicked out of Section 6?
No, we're not kicked out of Section 6. So for clarity, we had only played Federation play for football. And this is, I think, an important point because a part of the narrative is that that we don't have city leagues. So when you think about basketball, we are a city league. We're the Yale Cup. We're our own league in basketball. It was only football that has, the last 10 years, been part of Federation play. When you think about the Cornell Cup and you think about our spring sports, we're our own league. And so we only were Federation play in football. And the agreement 10 years ago was that Section 6 would manage scheduling, they would manage playoffs, all-star teams, and championships. Now, because of this decision, we have to own a good portion of that. We have to find our games. We have to identify our all-star teams. Again, and I'm of the mindset of Dr. Cash. Some of those things, I think, you know what you want to do to us, we can find ways to do them well, be creative, and really give our kids a rich experience. If this is the hand that will be dealt. But obviously, we're not going to go quietly into the dark, like Dr. Cash said. But to clarify, we are not kicked out of Section 6. We are still a member. In fact, we had a meeting today where our new acting assistant superintendent, Cecily, was present. Michael House was present. We had three representatives there, and we haven't had that in a long time, which was part of our corrective action plan for athletics around making some adjustments, putting some key personnel. And so that's been a long time since we had 3 people present.
Thank you, Anna Ball.
I'm sorry. I think, who was first? Terrence, Larry, and then
Okay. I'm not here to argue or bicker or try to cause any type of confusion. Okay. But I just want to clear the facts on a couple of things. Mm-hmm. November 21st, I called the meeting with the coaches to have that meeting and invited you to the meeting because I was receiving calls from coaches that's out of our district and stating that Buffalo school system is about to be hoodwinked, and they about to get kicked out of Section 6 for playing with suburban schools, and they saying that it's going to be formatted that you guys are going to play each other, play yourselves, and be removed. So I called the meeting with the coaches and found out what's going on. And my problem here is a lack of transparency, because these emails was going out, and I asked you personally to let me know what was going on and to inform me so that we can try to keep a understanding and get a grip of what was going on, because our athletic department was we had somebody who was sitting in a position in which they it was new to them.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that he wasn't a good person for the position. I'm not trying to push anything like that at all.
Yep.
What I was saying is that I just wanted to make sure that we had an understanding from the board point to the superintendent's office that we can make some just decisions in the future. And up until now, I do have a question about the last letter that went out, that you sent out, the last vote. And what was that last vote?
The ECIC?
Yes.
So that was 4 no votes from each of our representatives. So one would be the superintendent designee, the athletic director, a male representative, and a female representative, which is our 4 votes. So they were 4 no votes.
What was the vote for? What were we voting for?
For the league. We don't, no, the second time we didn't vote at all. We submitted a petition to ECIC. So every coach, and you were at this meeting, brought the forms, or they sent them to me the next day. They brought the form signed by their school principal, the coach, and then the director of athletics, petitioning the ECIC for entry for varsity football and JV.
Okay. And my question is, I know that you're going to be assuming a new role. Congratulations again, for your new role. You'll be assuming as a superintendent. But we might need guidance in the future from you also to continue on with this. And if you're willing to help for it, then the hand forward. Since you have all the contacts so far with the section, if you can help us out with that, I'm asking that. I know contracts and everything that goes in. And, I don't want you to move anything out, but we just want to make sure that we're updated, that we have if we're just pointing on that we have some transparency between our departments on this.
Terrence, I would just say there was never an effort to not be transparent. I follow the guidance of my boss currently, and so when I work through, I try to be as inclusive as possible. There were some communications that had basically requested me to be at a board meeting to present. I always go through the superintendent and give guidance on whether or not that is his approved action. So I just wanted to make sure this was not done to try to throw anyone under the bus or anything. This is what I had factually, and I have went through my emails, and I had called the meeting for the coaches, but I do have one saying that you were going to be there and you were going to join us, and we went to sidelines to have the conversation with the coaches. So I will say that, and again, I shared all of that with the superintendent as well. And the superintendent knows, he's a mentor to me personally. I'm committed to do what's right, and I made a pretty bold statement in the first article that was received a variety of ways from a variety of people, even as I assume in a different community. Yeah, exactly. But I'm passionate. I mean, those kids, they mean a lot to me too. So I want to do what's right for them, regardless of when I leave or not. But again, I will follow recommendations of the superintendent, and if I'm not here, he knows how to get a hold of me and what I'd be committed to doing for these kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
3 questions. So, sorry if you already stated this.
Nope.
But with us being out, can they still participate in sectionals and states?
Yeah. So again, we are not out. We are being forced to create our own league. So
right.
So I just want that's clarity, because people, when hear people say out, they think we're out of Section 6. We're not out of Section 6. We're in it. We're being told we have to create our own league. So I just want to make sure that we use that language.
In actuality, somewhere.
Is that not true of all the other?
Yeah, so that's true of everybody, guys. So we were federation play. So there was no league last year. There was no league the last 10 years. Nobody. ECIC didn't exist. But ECIC existed for basketball and baseball, just like Yale Cup existed for us, just like Cornell Cup existed for us. We had our own leagues. So I just want to be clear that what they did to everyone. They forced everyone to go into their own leagues now. Unfortunately for us, for football, we didn't have it anymore. We didn't have the Harvard to lean back on. And we also don't have the same number of programs. Program schools have changed, shut down, reconfigured. So we used to have a rich menu of teams. Now we're down to 5, which by size, there's some inequities. But we can still play in the postseason. We're still eligible for state championships because we're a member of Section 6.
Do you know how come we don't have representation on the executive
That I don't know, but I do know we have a seat at Athletic Council, which is typically the body that meets. But I don't know this executive board has mentioned.
Have we ever had representation on
Not that I'm aware of, but I can find out further, and we can bring this up in our meeting on Friday to figure out.
And how do they determine how many votes or representatives you have?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I do know we have the most. Of
We
the
have the
30.
most?
Yeah, we have 4. So most districts typically have 1.
And then,
So like Kenton, they have 1 vote.
last question, more complicated. So it starts here Thursday, November 14th. There was an email that came from Ken Swope, and you reference an athletic council meeting where this was discussed. When was that discussion? When did that discussion happen? And did we have representation?
No, so we typically don't have athletic council representation at the meetings. So the coaches usually represent us for like football. There's a subcommittee, a football committee, a football chair, which is how we found out about it through the communication, because they send their notes and their minutes afterwards. So in terms of athletic council, either myself, at the time it was another gentleman in the district, would have been a part of that group to hear the initial proposal.
And when was that?
November 14th. That was the day you sent it. But we saw the email come out because we did not make that meeting. So the email came out with the minutes saying that there was a proposal.
Okay, you're saying that he shared with athletic council meeting, that was the body he shared it with on email.
Correct.
It wasn't in
Not in a meeting. It was via email. A lot of this happened electronically, which is part of the concern.
Right.
Even the voting happened electronically. The way they shared out, the way they did the point system, they shared out the point system. He emailed it. We didn't have like dialogue. We didn't debate. There wasn't a lot of input. So.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so a couple things. In all of this, and I know one of the meetings ended up being more closed than open when you had with the coaches, like that initial first meeting. And I wanted to attend that meeting. And as a board member, I can attend any meeting, but we did have representation there. What has become increasingly clear is that if the community, if you're not from Buffalo or understand the fight, the issues, the traditions, what has happened, how deep this goes. There were 20-something people who were standing strong from all walks of life that were here, and many more to come. I do believe if any of these meetings would have been transparent, or any of this would have been communicated to the community at large, it would have been more than, well, the email, well, I'm upset that if we have a seat in an athletic whatever, that we're not there. There is no reason in Buffalo, we can't say, oh, we have 4 seats because there's 30 votes and that's great, if we don't even go to the ones that matter. So and to me, it becomes very clear, and I understand that we won't be kicked out, we'll be in postseason, but the point system, any way you add it up, no matter whose data you use, it won't, and we will never make first seed. We will never make second seed. We won't get there. So to me, the proposal on the table is bunk, right? It's a disregard to the hard work. And when you say we were asked in order to come and play 10 years ago we were told that you either get with it and push it and get rid of Harvard Cup and get rid of everything else. We were told it's either all or nothing, thank you, Buffalo. And that's what we did. We sacrificed for our students and went as a community up against parents, up against whoever, to say, look, this is a benefit for your families. So to me, the community's voice was not only necessary, it was dire, and it was, for whatever reason, it was neglected or wasn't looked at as important enough, or I don't know. As a community member who's very invested in this well before school board anything, I'm upset that we haven't demanded previously the seat at the table that we need to have. I'm upset that we had a seat in a major decision factor and we don't go because it wasn't communicated.
No, the clarity for Larry, it was emailed to Athletic Council.
Right. I'm just saying, if we have a seat at the Athletic Council, if you can't go and the other representative can't go, somebody needs to go.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then that needs to be communicated to us, because this board, obviously, you have, and Terrence is versed in this, all the logistics, And, you know, you have stakeholders that are involved in this. So I just, moving forward, and I understand, and this is not a dig, what you got coming up is amazing, man. I mean, I commend you for being able to make the transition and have all this responsibility and then know what's ahead of you. So I'm not doing this to you, and I mentioned this to Dr. Cash as well. This isn't a blame game, right?
Yes.
But the history will not be known with just the data and facts that are in front of you. If you don't involve community and you don't get their voice 100% of the time, you're never going to know how important this is. And as you can see, we completely did a turnaround, and was able to give people more time, and our lawyers are sitting with these folks right now. Why? Because the community came to the table and said, this is not, we weren't asked, we were told. This decision is beyond, and we do not have, and I would like for the community to somehow be able to get like a diagram, a visual, to show that the point system will never put us in that play-out position. We will never make postseason. Any way you line this up, because all the other districts that play each other, it's not gonna work. It's not.
And that was their intent.
So, you know, intent or not intent, those are the facts. It's just not gonna happen. So I don't wanna play with the okey doke. We need to demand those seats, whatever it takes. And like I said, if we have a seat at that one, we need to make sure somebody's there at all times. All times. And the executive committee, come on, 36-7.
The state assembly has the power.
So, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say that.
All right, so we want to wrap this up because it's getting late. Mr. Hearn?
Oh, good. Okay, they should bring it through this way. Somebody, whoever it is, tell Nate to bring it there, bring it here.
Okay. Due to the lack of transparency, I'd like to see how we formulate this, but I would like to be added to the email chain from the Section 6 so I can get updates of what's going on and update the board, what direction things is going in. So I'd like to be included on the email chain from the Section 6 that deals with football, basketball, all sports that detail through the Section 6 alignment to come to the Educational Support Committee.
I think that, I don't know if that's an ask that you can, that the board can honor.
Why is
It has
that?
to be honored by Section 6, and I don't know if they sent out emails to anyone other than who.
I did send an email to the Section 6, and they sent the email back, said it had to be administered by the superintendent. I have a copy of the email.
So that's something that I think,
They went to vote.
we need to talk about, and that's, I guess we can have a discussion.
No, it
Here's
wouldn't.
here's where we are right now. Okay, we're in the process of waiting for the resolution to come through. Okay, we have the option and to go forward and finish this meeting as we have on the consent agenda, and then come back and address this, doing unfinished business as it should possibly be, or possibly or properly be done. That's how it should be done.
That's matter of fact,
so-
that's why I'm asking now, what's the process and how do we go about it by adding the
Right, but that's new
education?
business, is what I'm trying to get you to understand. And what we were doing was the superintendent's I was allowing the superintendent to do his update. Then we should be going to now to the consent agenda, and that should be under unfinished business at the very end of this.
Okay.
Okay, so we have to move forward and conduct this board meeting to get through this, and then we can add things on as we move forward. Okay, that's under unfinished business. So Dr. Cash has 3 more, so Annabelle will still be here, that can rest for now. Dr. Cash, please continue.
Okay, Annabelle, thank you.
Thank you.
Holly, quickly, grad rate data has been sent to me, is embargoed until tomorrow morning. This is the 2019 graduation rate data. The acting commissioner, Shannon Tahoe, will have a press conference tomorrow at 11, and then shortly thereafter, we'll send you out the summary of her presentation as well as our synthesis and highlights of what she is talking about. Number 3 is Homestead number 64. We have a recognition. It's been long overdue for that Extraordinary School tomorrow at 11, is it, or is it 10? 10 o'clock at the school. I believe all the board members have been invited. It is going to be different than normal recognitions when we call a press conference. This is going to stay focused on the students and the staff and the principal of that school, but certainly to join us in the overall commendation, you are welcome. So we're looking forward to that. Last but not least, Dr. Morris, Janelle Morris and her staff have gotten an updated statistical highlight as you do your listening tours and other work with our schools. These are helpful to you so that you can get at a glance a distillation of the school district. So welcome to share these with anyone who would like a copy. Madam President, that'll do it.
Thank you, Dr. Cash. This is a very, very valuable tool here, and I appreciate it. As a matter of fact, I have all of them from the first one, I think, in 2015 to now, and so I look at those often. All right, and moving forward, we need our committee reports. Do we have any committee chairs that want to report out?
Yes.
Okay, Jennifer, why don't we start with Vice President Nkosi and move forward and see if we need to keep it concise on the committees, what happened, and then we will, at the very end of the meeting, board members under unfinished business will be able to talk about what they're doing and et cetera, okay? In addition to committee work.
So we had our executive, we had all the committees on, I can't remember the date, it's not in front of me. Yes, what Darren said, Wednesday, January 8th. And the Executive Affairs Committee conceded time to the Educational Support Committee for most of the, I would say a good half of the meeting. The rest of the meeting, we discussed the sensitivity training that the board members will be taking part in January 23rd.
Disproportionality.
Disproportionality.
Sensitivity, and give an update on the three companies.
Right.
That will be
Right, so we'll have an update. We were updated on 3 possible, and then I also requested another. So there's 4 possible vendors to do a sensitivity training that we all have agreed we would need in order to conduct business the way we should. And that should probably be happening in March. And also there's going to be, there was a conversation, or there was a target that I would like to move forward with the committees, with the Executive Affairs Committee, and with any committee it's related to, which would be the Parent Congress, and really putting that structure in place and making sure that everything we have resourced this Parent Congress in the way that we need to for them to thrive and flourish, but also for the participants in the Parent Congress to do what it needs to in the agreement that you have with the district, in order to be successful and bring that parent community, stakeholder, shareholder, student voice to the table. So we're going to be digging pretty deep into that in the near future.
Thank you, Vice President.
Thank you.
Vice President Deere?
We went into executive session for the majority of my committee meeting. We had a robust and productive conversation. I would like to report out that we have just set the agenda for our next student achievement work session, where we'll be discussing the graduation data that will be released. I look forward to that discussion as well.
What date is that?
I believe it's
that is February 5th.
That's it, February
So,
5th.
okay, so on February the 5th, our listening audience can come in at 5 o'clock and hear about the graduation.
So the slate we have up for the upcoming work sessions are the graduation for our February work session. NEAC will come and speak to us, as well as addressing data and other questions around scenario instruction in March, and then in April we will address special education.
Thank you.
In March, MEAC will come in the multilingual department.
And the thank you. I knew I forgot these. The multilingual department will present as well, and we thank you.
And so, Madam Vice President, so your presentations will include academic data under student achievement? Yes. Okay, thank you. Mr. Hurd?
Yes, on the educational support, we had quite a few meetings, and we were quite busy with the staff, working with Dr. Brown Hall, put him to work throughout the week, and thank you for all the work you put together. Couple weeks? Okay. One thing we had that we talked about was we had a resolution that was drafted for the collaboration with the City of Buffalo Community Foundation and the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation. With this, we talked about and have slides of the city parks that's going to be renovated under the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation and everything that they do. Some of the parks that's going to be renovated is the Robert E. Rich All-High Stadium, the PFC William J. Gaviar School of Excellence, which is going to have a nice football field attached to it, which is turf and locker rooms. Also, we have the Frederick Law Olmsted School at Kensington, which is going to receive a soccer field behind it. We also have Riverside High School, which is going to receive a football field. The Math, Science, Technology Preparatory School at Seneca is going to receive a soccer field behind that, a turf soccer field, and track. Glennie Park is going to be revitalized with basketball courts and also 3 baseball diamonds on it. And also look for more things from Glennie Park about the commitment from Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation about building a field house for the Buffalo Public Schools. Johnny B. Wild Stadium at Maston Park is going to have an overhaul. The JFK Park, which is going to be beautiful, which is downtown Buffalo, is going to have football fields, soccer fields, new baseball diamonds. And one thing that was asked to be addressed was about the revamping of the swimming pools. So that's further agenda on that, but we're still going to fight to try to get new swimming pools over at the JFK Park. McCarthy Park is to be renovated with, I believe, 6 baseball diamonds, and McGivern Park is going to be renovated in the Waterfront Park, which just has a beautiful scope and dynamics of it, and it's going to reshape it, and the Waterfront Park will be renamed the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation. So kudos to that team and working together with the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation to uphold those values and making better parks for our neighborhoods and kids, and safe environments with lighting and trees and things you will see normally out in another state. So secondly, we worked with Dr. Brown Hall with the Infants Campus about our data for long-term, short-term, and suspensions, formal suspensions. So we have an updated list that we can go into campus for each and every board member. They can look at the schools and see what's going on in their schools within their district so we can know how to address it. And the program that we're addressing it with is the Say Yes to Education program, where we had David Russ come and had a nice presentation with quite a few of his personnel to talk about the things that the Say Yes to Education is doing here in the city of Buffalo. One thing we talked about was college retention. We talked about the SATs, the strong community schools. We talked about the parent centers. We also spoke about the Single Moms Club, which is a very innovative idea to work with our young mothers. Also, they expressed they had over 6,800 workshops that went on through the city of Buffalo last year. We discussed health home care aid and actually going to the home and seeing the problems that children have and maybe try to find solutions, because they were the only organization that could go inside the home to help our students of needs. And also we addressed mental health issues and the math and skill assessments and how they can help with that. Another thing that we also discussed was our summer programs and how we can say yes to help with our summer programs and actually possibly bring courses or training for our kids. Other than something from summer school, that's the only thing that Buffalo was really accustomed to in the past. We looked at preventive services, mobile health, the legal clinics, the Boys and Men of Color program, the Help Me Grow, did internships, mentoring, and home care coordination. After that, I believe, yes, that can be further, so that will conclude my report.
But just to be clear, the suspension data came from Dr. Williams' office. They uploaded it, make sure they maintain it on the website. So that link that I sent to the board
Yes.
will have the updated reports every month when their office releases a new month. So Dr. Thomas Williams will make sure her team does that.
Okay. The reason why we stressing the importance of watching our classes and the suspension data is that we want to know what's going on in our schools, and we want to try to alleviate the suspensions and find practices. We've been looking through the Educational Support Committee with the restorative justice practices, and also looking at the code of conduct and seeing where the changes need to be made at. That's going to make sure that it fits the state and federal guidelines, so that we're all in compliance and that we can keep our kids in school and not out of school doing incidents and for the nurturing and mentoring. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Mrs. Woods, report on finance and arts.
Finance and Ops met, and Finance and Ops started off with a presentation on the MBE-WBE policy that the board passed for 25% minority and women participation. The new purchasing director presented a comprehensive program of how he's going to improve our reporting on how many contracts are being given to minorities and women business. It's planned to have more presentations quarterly to the community on how to do business with Buffalo schools. Our staff person, Attorney Calhoun, also presented that they are researching how to amend our bid procedures so that it clearly states this is the board's policy, 25%, and a matrix to give points so that you have a consequence and a reward to score higher when you actually follow board policy. So our program the policy has been in place for 2 years. Now we have a purchasing director working hard with our attorney to make this real and report to this board on their progress. So I was very pleased with his 7 or 8 points on what he can do, how it can be done in our system, and how we can make that policy go real. The other, Dr. Katz did point out we do have some progress. We do advertise. We do consider minority statements, EEO statements from all of our vendors. We have some pieces, but it is not succinct. It does not give the board a kind of reporting that we want. And the administration and the superintendent gave a directive that we will do better and implement it. The other item on my committee was the presentation of the new transportation contract. As you heard, we had another person speaking on the problems with transportation. The first student did an exhaustive presentation on the improvements they are making with the tracking, the hiring of increased wages so they have more buses. They won't have to consolidate as many routes so that the parents will be able to see where their children are. They gave us a exhaustive list of how they're going to do better. And my last comment to them was simply, I want to hear from the parents. Is the theory, what you claim you're doing and what you expect to happen, is it real? When my parents tell me they're not sitting here waiting 2 hours, as Jim McCosey, a parent, said, and they're saying they know where their children are, and it's winter, I want to see them do better. And that's one of the items on our agenda. So they did a very strong, comprehensive presentation. It is going to cost us more money, and since we're going to pay more money, I expect a much better transportation plan for our children on all of the routes. That's my report.
Well, thank you. I wasn't that we weren't paying attention. We were actually in the process of reviewing the resolution. I think that at this point, I would ask the board, and we have a couple of members that are not here, But I would ask the board if we would be able to make an exception to our agenda today and move up forward the passing or the approval of this resolution that has been drafted tonight. It is a superintendent's, and Nate is reprinting it. It is a superintendent's resolution, and he will present it, and the board will decide if they will accept it, knowing that we can always ask for an amendment at another. Knowing that we can always ask for the superintendent to modify it in the event that there's something that we overlooked at this point. There's just one item that needs to be corrected, and it will be presented to the board. So until Mr. Kuzman comes back, and once he comes back, we'll just stop what we're doing. Why don't we just keep this moving and go through the exceptions list? May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by Paulette, second please? By Larry, thank you very much. Larry Scott, Paulette Woods. Okay, in regards to the exception list, we have for item number 11A, Mr. Hurd, what is your concern?
Okay, my concern about item 11A, this is the Montessori, Westside Montessori School. This is something that came last month, and I had a deep conversation with the board about and figure out why with the totals of $40,100 for the program, just to briefly go through it. And so we come to find out that it's actually more money as of right now. It's $57,400 for the total fees. I'm not debating that, but it looks like there's some math that's wrong on this. And so...
Okay, thank you for that question, Board Member Hurd. We have an answer for you. I thought you had finished.
No, it's just some math that was wrong on it. It looked like application enrollment fees is $17,400, but one paper is $17,300.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then we have another one that's that we're looking at tuition is $40,000, and then on the other paper it says it's $40,100. So I just didn't want no clerical issue that's going to hold anything back.
Okay, thank you. I
Okay,
appreciate it.
no worries. Ms. Jestanowski is here, our Associate Superintendent for School Leadership for this particular school. Ms. Jestanowski.
Yes, the enrollment fees are $17,400. Tuition is $40,000, so it'll be $57,400 total.
Okay, but on the document itself it says 17.
When we put through the board recommendation, we put it through for $40,100, so we're asking for the difference of $17,300 to make that number correct.
Okay. I just didn't want the process to be held up anymore because of mathematical error.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Hurd.
Any other questions for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry about that. We're working as we're flying this plane as we're building this plane as we're flying it today, so we're okay. All right. My only concern that I had is that with the amount of money that we're spending on this, will we have the ability to turnkey this training at all?
Well, this is, the people that are going through the program will be Montessori certified, so it's a certification program in particular for this. So this first cohort, no, we're just going to be working with these 12 individuals at this point.
Okay, but those 12 individuals would not be able to share and give information and techniques to maybe the teacher aides and the assistants and things like that. That's what I'm talking about when I'm referring to turnkey.
Absolutely, information will be shared with everyone that's interested. Absolutely, especially the teacher assistants working in the rooms.
Thank you. That's what my concern was. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to quickly. Dr. Cash wants to quickly do number 17A, which is Mr. Scott, and followed by 17B, which is Mr. Hurd. We're going to finish. We're going to do this.
All right. Yeah.
Finish this part. We're going to finish it at this point.
Just trying to finish.
So yeah, just try to go quick. I just wanted to make a comment that, you know, this is obviously very costly contract.
Which one
now?
now?
The first student.
Yeah, first student.
We've had obviously lots of concerns over the years with transportation. We had a good discussion and presentation at our work session last week. It was very clear that First Student was the lowest bid, $21 million less than the next lowest bid. I asked, it seemed like there's going to be some changes moving forward in that contract, and I asked for those changes to be shared with the board and also made public, and I thank the staff that were able to put all that together, get it onto board docs to us by Friday, which is board policy. Everything was there that I needed to see, and there was clear evidence that the changes are articulated in the bid, and that there are clear penalties if First Student doesn't live up to the obligations on their end. They will incur penalties. After looking over all this, I visited as well last year some of the terminals of First Student and saw how complex this system is. Without any known other option, a better option, I am, with prudence, going to be supporting the approval of this contract tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Hurd?
Okay, mine was actually 18B. You got checked in the
Oh,
wrong
is it
box.
18? Okay, I'm sorry.
It's 17B. Oh,
18B?
18B.
My apologies, let's correct that, 18B.
The milk, yes. Okay, my question is, the district is spending $267,233.25 on yogurt. Now, is this for all the schools? Is this gonna cover all the schools, or?
We're spending how much?
It says, the dollar amounts encumbered.
Oh, that's the amount of money we spent so far with that company. This item is only for $40,000, where it says cost, it's only $40,000. $267,000 is what we have encumbered so far with that company. But the yogurt is only $40,000.
Okay, that encompasses all schools in the city of Buffalo, 40,000.
Mhm.
Okay, my last question is, we just got to a contract with Healthy Foods, Whole Foods program here in the city, about healthy choices. Okay, does yogurt included in that contract also, or?
The Healthy Smart Foods
Yes,
is a program, right. So the yogurt is part of that. It's one of the dairy allowances in that program.
So is this connected to that program, or is this a separate bill?
No, all of it is. It's all connected to the same Smart Foods
That's
program.
okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Okay, questions answered?
I'm clear now.
Okay, so we're gonna finish this, I'm sorry, we're gonna finish this, agenda. I think we're talking about item number 19B and 19H. Invoice associated with, an attorney with, Palladino versus Metro.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I talked with Nate and he clarified what this is about, and I just wanted to make it public that we are still paying for legal fees in regards to a school board member that was removed from this body and is no longer serving on this body. And instead of those dollars being spent in our schools on our kids, we're still paying those legal fees. That's all.
Thank you very much. Okay, if there are no other exceptions, may we entertain a vote, Mr.
On the consent agenda, nothing was pulled, correct, Madam President?
Yes, sir.
Voting on everything?
Yes, sir.
How do you vote, Dr. Cathy, on this bill? Mr. Hurd?
No exceptions.
Mr. Day is absent. Mr. Cozy?
No exception.
Mr. Petrucci is on the phone, but cannot vote. Dr. Rivera?
No exceptions.
Mr. Scott?
No exceptions.
Ms. Woods?
No exception.
President Belton County?
No exceptions.
Consent agenda passes.
Okay, may I have a, motion to, change the consent agenda to, entertain the newly formed board resolution, by the superintendent? Mr. Hurd, may I have a second? Mrs. Brown? Okay, Dr. Cash, would like to share.
Colleagues, just want to really commend staff and the colleagues who joined us this evening. In incredibly short time, have crafted a significant and substantive resolution for your consideration. Board President Cotman and I had a brief discussion simply to add one codicil in here, colleagues, and you will see it. I think I mentioned a gentleman with the dreadlocks I thought had captured a piece that I did not see in here and that Board President picked up on that probably should be in this resolution, and it has to do with what the impact is on students should you go to another level with this. And so an addition for your consideration is, whereas the decision exposes our student athletes to significant, irreparable, and disparity of treatment, irreparable harm, and disparity of treatment. So if the colleagues who are represented here would concur and agree with that addition, then I will present it to the board for their final consideration. Do your spokespeople concur with that?
It's good.
Okay. So again, thank you for your hard work on this.
Can
Council
we read this,
Kuzma.
Doctor?
So now,
Dr. Forestas.
and of course, Will. Excellent. Thank you, Will. So, Board President, I would recommend that you read the resolution.
It's your resolution, though. I'm just
For the
teasing.
board.
For the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Whereas, this is submitted, board resolution, January 15, 2020, submitted by Dr. Kreiner Cash. Whereas approximately 10 years ago, the Buffalo Public Schools dissolved its football league and prized Harvard Cup to join Section 6 football. Whereas the Section 6 Football Federation recently approved a proposal to realign the respective football conferences, thereby excluding the Buffalo Public Schools from participating in league play with its suburbans and rural counterparts. Whereas this decision was made without any study, deliberation, or meaningful engagement with the Buffalo Public Schools, its superintendent, or the wider Section 6 community. Whereas this decision adversely impacts our teams and students, athletes, by creating a point system that is competitively unfair to Buffalo's team. Whereas as a result of these actions, which reduce regional notoriety, Buffalo student athletes are now placed at a notable disadvantage in assessing the standard recruiting practices of local and national colleges. Whereas the timing of this decision further adversely impacts the ability of the Buffalo Public Schools to adequately establish a competitive schedule for its team. Whereas this decision exposes our student athletes to significant, irreparable harm and disparity of treatment. Be it resolved that the Board of Education is categorically opposed to the decision of Section 6 to realign its football conferences and respectfully request that Section 6 rescinds its decision. Be it further resolved that the superintendent and board members of parents heard are authorized to meet with Section 6 officials to discuss the realignment proposal and the request of the board. And be it further resolved that as a last resort, the superintendent is authorized to take appropriate legal action changing Section 6 decision. Challenging, excuse me, let me say that again. Be it further resolved that as a last resort, the
Excuse me.
I'm going to start again. Be it further resolved that as a last resort, the superintendent is authorized to take appropriate action challenging challenging Section 6's decision.
Madam President?
Yes.
Is it possible that they can spell my name correctly?
How do you spell your name? Sorry. No problem. Does anyone else have anything to say? Do we have any discussion about this, or is this comfortable for the board for us to move forward?
Should it read that as a last? Do we have A there?
Go ahead, say it.
Yeah.
The last one. Be
You
it
should.
further resolved that as a, add
Oh,
A there.
That's where it
You were
missed,
saying it, but it wasn't there.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So if we are in agreement with that, may I have a roll call vote on this?
Yes, and what I'm gonna do is, with those two amendments, there's no objection to those amendments, the correction of Mr. Hurd's name and adding an A. What I'm gonna do for the record,
Taking an S off.
I'm gonna do this right now, and have fresh copies distributed to the board, and Mr. Jason has an accurate
Okay.
reflection of what the board.
But are we allowed to vote on it?
Yes. I just
All
wanna be
right.
clear,
Okay,
so
thank
what I'm
you.
gonna do.
A and R.
Yes.
Thank you.
My apologies. How do you vote on the resolution, Dr. Kathy Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Ms. McCosey,
Yes.
Dr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Woods.
Is he still on the line?
He can now vote, but I don't know whether the board would like him, if he wishes to make a comment, whether the board would. Mr. Petrucci, do you have anything
Yes.
to say on this?
No, I stand in support of the resolution.
Ms. Woods, how do you vote?
Strongly in support.
Yes. Okay. President Belvin Cotton,
Yes,
the resolution passes.
thank you.
Thank you, staff and community leaders, for doing this.
Thank you. Would have been done without you guys.
I've never seen that in.
Thank you.
Do you have their information, Will, so we can reach out? Okay. Thank you, colleagues.
Estonians in the house.
Well done. Colleagues, could I take a quick moment of privilege as our colleagues? I'm going to speak to another item.
Thank you so much.
Maybe you want to do an acknowledgement for the
what?
For the people that passed.
Not yet. Just 1 second. 2 seconds.
That other ribbon.
Yeah. Colleagues, are our bus colleagues still here? Because while and I know about this work. This is hard work, and I do appreciate Mr. Scott saying that he's been over to see the complexity of bus operation for, as you know, over 122 entities, over 1 million rides each year. So I personally, as superintendent, wanted to commend First Student for, since we've had our hearings and our community talks and feedback, they have been really stellar in the effort to get the drivers every day since, what was it, late October till now. They've had all routes covered, all morning routes, all afternoon routes. The students have been delivered safely, even if at times late. It's not to a fault of theirs, and I just want to commend you, Mr. McCabe, and your company for your performance today, and we trust it will continue. Yes?
Yes, it will.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
One more thing. I forgot to mention in my comments too, and when I saw you outside, the Buffalo Parent-Teacher Organization is looking to host another forum on transportation, and they've been reaching out to you. If you could get back to them and just set that up so that you can have that dialogue back and forth. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll help with that. We'll all come out. All right, thank you.
Thank you. It's been a very progressive meeting, Dr. Cash.
It is, very much so.
Okay, let's see where we are. Do we have an executive session today?
I don't believe so.
No?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Because your resolution
Okay.
covers what you need.
Okay, so may I, okay, I think we have two things we need to take care of to wrap up. We need to do our acknowledgements of our bereaved members, and we can do that at the very, very end. I would like to open up the floor for any unfinished business. Board members, if you would like to share your recent activities and things like that, this is the time to do it. Do you want to go around the table, or do you just want to raise your hand accordingly and move forward?
You go around the table.
Okay. You want to start with, how about Kathy Brown?
Okay, I don't have much. I'm just looking forward to working with the executive committee in terms of the graduation rate era, and Dr. Janelle Moore. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hurd, would you like to share anything with us?
I've been working very hard into many community meetings, many organizational meetings. It's so many that I'm not going to bore anybody with my life, but I'm going to just remind everybody that this Saturday at the Workland Northwest Corridor is the graduation for the Breaking Barriers program. One group that I've worked diligently with since this initiation, and also Dr. Fatima Morel with My Brother's Keeper, who's the workhorse in this, that put this together, and I've been working with these organizations through My Brother's Keeper, and congratulate you, and I know I'll see you there at the graduation.
You'll see me there.
Friday night.
Friday night.
For the gun violence one, but yes, thank you. That's really great to hear here, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So that's two activities, I guess. Dr. Revere?
So I attended the CPAC meeting last night. They are very busy revamping their social media outreach. They're working very hard on supporting parents as they move forward. They would like the board and the community to know that their next meeting will be in their next meeting in February will be on a Saturday to improve their outreach to parents. They're working to more effectively address parent concerns. They're focused on organizing to be a strong and effective parent group. And they're establishing stronger lines of communication with the district, and they're tracking trends and mobilizing more robust support for parents. They also had a really good presentation on how to develop an IEP, along with a wonderful forum on how to communicate a child's needs. And their recommendation is that get adopted as a model across the district for parents to use before they enter into a CSE meeting to help focus on student strengths as well, which is a useful thing in these kinds of meetings. So they're moving forward to work with that. I also had a meeting today regarding special education with Ms. Botticelli, Ms. Fulcher, and Dr. Brown Hall, where we went through some questions and we brainstormed some ideas about how to continue to work and support the needs of our students with disabilities in the schools.
Thank you.
So I've attended quite a few meetings and won't get into all of them. The two things that I wanted to uplift is there was a community dialogue around whether or not, and I've shared this with folks and wondering if the community would like to offer suggestions to help the district as opposed to pointing fingers and blaming district, which seems to happen a lot. We do have a concern around students who want to participate in after-school events, but due to the fact that schools are closed at a certain time and then don't reopen again until the event, a lot of students can't make it back home. What do they do in that in-between time? So how do we figure out a way with our community partners to keep our buildings open for those students? So that was a huge concern that was actually shared across 3 different meetings that didn't have anything to do with that concern. It magically came up, I think, because I was there. They thought it would be great to keep bringing it up. So, and for the board members who I put out there, the listening tour I've been doing in the West District, we'll be contacting the board members who ask questions about doing something similar. Working with the district, I put together kind of a listening tour in my district where I speak with students around, their take on attendance issues, their take on issues that are affecting our school. But also it's a very big push to start putting points of pride in the ether from their principals, from the staff, from the students, and having them really be proud of where they go to school and what they love about their schools, and trying to change the narrative that Buffalo schools aren't doing anything when we clearly, on paper and in other ways, are doing great things. So it was just, as someone who is a facilitator by trade, it was something that naturally came to me. Sharing that practice, and now other board members being interested, I'm hoping we can really get all schools to kind of really give us feedback so we can do some real uplifting of all our unique institutions and our students.
Thank you.
Jen, transportation.
Transportation.
East High School, you reported it?
Oh, from the BPTO meeting, yes. So this was also brought up at the Mr. Hurd and myself had attended, and we almost tag teamed this. Mr. Hurd was there, I showed up a little late, and he had to leave. But transportation became a conversation at the Buffalo Parent Teacher Organization meeting on Saturday. The issues around making sure that the buses, charter buses, what can we do to bring spectators to events? How do we make sure that people who are attending events, whether athletic events or just extracurricular events. If the students are brought back to the schools, the huge conversation is, what are our options for those late games and those, we talked about this before, but it's not communicated to the community in a larger sense of what we're going to do to help those students who don't have a ride home, who can't get on the bus after a certain time. There were instances brought up on personal levels where students were actually rejected from their bus pass because of the time frame, but yet it's beyond their control when the game ends if it's out of the district and they come back at a certain time. So, and then the questions around how do you as coaches, take the responsibility of taking home children? There's a obviously a risk factor in that. Do you allow other students to go home with other parents? There's a risk factor in that. And we, of course, don't have answers as to what exactly that means. So if we have any insight or can get from...
High school, right?
Yeah, high school and elementary school has activities, after school programs where there's young folks out there. Now, one of the big things that is an issue is the availability and for the schools in general. When we have a code blue in our city where we open up facilities and have people come in, but yet our schools will not open the doors before 8 o'clock in the morning for our students to come in. And we have parents who have to, and caregivers who have to drop off their students in order to be able to carry out their day. We have to allow, and I don't know if it's a staffing issue, if it's, what all that means, but the concern was the buildings need to be open, particularly like I brought up early in the beginning, in between time of closing the school for dismissal and in between a game. So if a game starts at 5:30 and the kids get out at 3 and they're not allowed to be in the building, where do they go for an hour and a half? And how do we encourage our students and our caregivers and our families to come support these teams if they can't even get in the building? And also, again, if you have parents who have to drop off their students early and can't even access the buses because of their situations and are using their vehicles or means of transportation to get their children there, and then their child has to stand outside because they're refused to be let in. Again, the point that was brought home, we have code blue for our city. Our youth should not be standing out there.
So, colleagues, those are all good points, and I think we need a subgroup, Jim, of our colleagues and a few others who share these concerns to meet and try to address these in a sound way. I certainly share the high level of the concerns. I can tell you though that there would have to be, we're going to have to work out a good compromise on some of it, because I've been in districts where, because parents have to work shifts and different jobs that are, they drop kids off at 5 a.m. in the morning because they feel they'll be safe.
Right.
And then
It's a
they have to
safety
go
issue.
to, and then they
So
go to work.
transportation and
So
safety.
we did have to address that issue, but we couldn't open at 5. We opened
Right.
earlier, an hour early before the regular school day began. So there are things we can work out around that, but we have to have a meeting about it. The other point I want to make, NFTA contract, the new one, which we worked out after all those years, I thought we gave a nice bandwidth there from early in the morning till well into the evening. And is that still not adequate? Is that what I'm hearing from the East parents?
What we heard from the parents was that after 6 o'clock, a lot of bus lines shut down, or they go down to minimum transportation, which may be one bus per 2 hours or one bus per 3 hours.
The bus route itself.
So after business hours, buses tend to shut down their routes a little bit more.
Less frequent.
Less frequent routes.
Is that-
And also the kids are being passed up. We have kids that may go to a game across town, and to get back home, all the way across town, maybe from South Buffalo to North Buffalo, they'll be rejected for their bus passes, or they don't have any type of transportation home.
Do you have a distillation of these concerns that I could share? Because we're in negotiations now with NFTA.
Might I ask?
I want to be able to try to bring these to the table.
Might I ask if we bring, would you mind if we contact you on around some of the concerns as well? Because I know you get them. I know he's been contacted by parents around safety as well, and he's brought into these conversations. He has a perspective that, you know, he's getting from community as well. So
he was also at the meeting.
That's fine, but you know, you're the board member, so.
right. That's why I'm asking. Can he also be included to get he has other perspectives. But as far as that goes, there's a secretary who takes notes. That everybody had a sign-in sheet. We can definitely contact the folks that had the issues that brought to table at this particular meeting. But these issues are
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you've captured them just now in your voice, you know,
we'll write them out.
That's what I'm saying, and send an email. Send an email to
We are just
Jim.
beginning negotiations with the NFTA,
Yeah.
so those types of things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's our email to Jim and CC to Darren. We're good. And me.
Let's take care of it.
And me.
But the last question, I shared with Paulette Woods. I keep calling her Dr. Woods. She's like my doctor. But one last question is, one last concern was about opening up the doors in the morning that we just spoke about. Now, the city of Buffalo just passed legislation in the last year stating that if you have an animal, a dog, that's left outside under 32-degree weather for 1 hour, you could be arrested for animal cruelty. So if a dog is left outside for 1 hour in 32-degree weather, you know, our children are standing out there longer periods of time in the morning. So this is something that we
I need
need.
to know more about the issue. So
The issue is the bus is opening the doors.
But I didn't hear that it's an hour that there's, and so I'm saying, let's talk about it and let's figure out a solution. Let staff work on a potential solution, because we have to bring in unions, we have to bring in, you know, conversations, MOUs, all kinds of things to get it solved. So
thank you, sir.
I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
Okay, so Dr. Morrell, you did reference something that is our students are taking a part in on Friday at the Northland Training Center. Can you tell me, share with us that it's something it has to do with gun violence?
Yes, this is being done by the Breaking Barriers program of Say Yes to Education under the leadership of Mr. Tommy McClam and Daniel Robertson. And it's we have Cities United coming with Anthony Smith, who leads like a consortium of cities that are addressing males of color and issues that impact males of color. And so there will be on Friday morning, he will be here in Buffalo, and there will be a press conference in the mayor's office, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Dr. Cash yet. But he will be here, and there will be a press conference. And in the evening, there will be a gun violence, he will be speaking about gun violence in our communities at the Northland Training Center. And we've chosen 12 of our scholars that we would like to see participate in that particular conference with. Anthony Smith is huge in this work, and so we've chosen 12 MBK scholars from the various schools who will take there, and they'll be able to engage with the Breaking Barriers scholars. But this really is looking at how we work together with the city, the Buffalo Public Schools, and Say Yes to Ed, and the community partner, which is Say Yes to Education. We have a few programs that we do, including the MBK Fellows, who will also be there, our high school component. It starts at 5 o'clock at the Northland Training Center, and it ends at 7.
This Friday?
Yes,
Okay,
on
there
the
you go.
17th.
Okay. Thank you for that, Dr. Morrell. Fabulous work going on, colleagues, around this particular
It
work.
really is. I just want to just briefly touch on a couple of things, things that I'm working on. We are working with Say Yes to try to address the math challenge, which is going to be similar to the reading challenge that the mayor does. And so we're working with that. They will be reaching out to have a meeting with Dr. Cash real soon to see how we can move that forward. In addition to that, we're working with a organization to see if we can bring a career pathway for STEM into our schools. So we'll be sharing that in a future student achievement or student support committee. Yes, from Channel 4, who is a multi,
multimedia journalist.
Media journalist. She can run a camera as well as she can get in front of the camera, is what she said to the young lady. In addition to that, they talked about leadership. They are doing reviewing a book. It's just it's the type of resources that our young ladies need to keep them on the right track. When we consider the fact that young ladies are going to jail at a faster pace and they are being pushed out at a faster rate, we have to do something to make sure that these young ladies are exposed to what success looks like. And Shannon was very candid and talked about her upbringing, and just really, I really enjoyed it. And I want to thank Dr. Neverbo and the Dr. Morrell, Dr. Nashar, and I'm sorry, I know I'm going to leave out, but everyone who was there working with our young ladies. It's very important. One of the things I want to ask the board if we can start having a conversation about doing a student forum where we bring in our students. We did it one time before. It was very successful. And we have a conversation with them. Maybe somewhere around March. We can think about that because February is such a short month. What's going on?
What's going on?
Lou?
You?
That's you?
I'm
that's
still
Lou.
here.
Okay, Lou. Oh, that's right. We got to ask Lou since he's here. I see that Annabelle Soler is still here. We want to say goodbye to you. Thank you for the great work. This is his last board meeting. We acknowledged him and honored him at a previous meeting, but we want to appreciate the work that you've done for our district, and we certainly wish you good luck and success in the future. Let's see. Lou, would you like to share anything with us today?
Yeah. Two things real quick. I just want to let everyone know that I went up to meet with Brian Bowman, who's the new Education Committee Chairman for the Buffalo County Council. And this week, while I'm at the Bloomberg Harvard Student Leadership Initiative, most of the topics have centered around questions of equity and collaboration. Equity, particularly with the underlying terms or the underlying factors of both procedural justice and distributive justice. And I'll come back with some things that I learned I want to share with the board.
Thank you, Lou.
You're very welcome.
If you did not get an email,
I have one more
okay.
comment. Since we're talking about the work of young men of color, in this, if you haven't had an opportunity in this last newsletter, New York State School Boards Association, I kind of gleaned over it, but it talks about the work that Buffalo is doing. Dr. Morrell was mentioned, Dr. Cash was mentioned. It sounds like a really good article, so take a look at it.
See, we're getting exposure across the state. New York State School Board Association came in today.
It just came in the mail.
Yeah.
I leaned over it. I didn't get a chance to really read it, but I saw your name and Dr. Cash's name. I was like, that's So just so that you know, the work is being.
Thank you.
I lost my thought. I'm sorry. So, I guess if we don't have any more business to discuss at this point, yes.
About the email, the possibility being for the Education Support Committee to have the emails with the section with ECIC.
You're going to have to talk with them. I'm not sure how the emails come. If the emails come from the section, I don't know if you.
What are you asking, Terrence? Because it may not be a big deal. Just if I get things, if we get things, and you're just asking to forward it to you, then I don't have a problem. If you're asking to be put on a list and want us to ask Section 6 to do that for Buffalo or something like that, I'm not sure what the policies are around that.
Yeah,
So,
my recommendation is we could ask the question on Friday.
Yeah.
Typically, I don't believe no board members from any of the surrounding districts around there. Typically, the designee or the superintendent or the superintendent's designee. So I think we can ask the question. But I think the other alternative is, as we get things, again, we'll forward it through if that's what you would like us to do.
But that's just haven't been the practice as of
on this issue, I'm fine with it.
Okay. So.
Wasn't he listed in the resolution as someone to contact?
Yes.
To address this matter?
He was in your. but I'm
does
not
that
sure what
include
he's asking.
What I want to be.
I'm asking to be on the email chain so I can read the emails also. I don't have to get some third party.
Okay, but what I don't want to happen at that meeting is that we ask for some big things and they give us a little thing. Make sure that does not happen because that's not, I mean.
Colleagues, there are gonna be 2 articles at least between now and Friday, and they're gonna be in the defensive. So I'm trying to make this so that we can win, as opposed to have folks double down. I've been through this before with these organizations, so we'll take care of it, and when we get there, make the request. Not a problem.
So
we got a lot of work to do.
I didn't get to do my comments, just a couple of things. Favorite finance report, but everybody knows I'm working with the veterans. I'm the commander of Jesse Clipper Post. So for my Saturday, we had the 8-county oratorical contest, which is open to all of our schools, and the prizes are $6,000 scholarships if you win at the state level, $25,000 if you win at the national level. So I'm going to be chairing that for Erie County for the American Legion, and I want to bring that to our schools. The only other meeting that I had was about the Harriet Tubman, a parade that I want to get some of they're going to have a parade March 7th, and Betty Jean Grant and some community groups are organizing it. And I'm asking, and I was talking to my principal of Harriet Tubman School to be involved, to get our students involved with that. So just a couple things
you
coming
ought to
up.
like that, Dr. Cash. Maybe you'll get out there and walk.
I better believe it.
He got that big picture of Harriet Tubman.
If it's real, I'm with it. It's gonna be real?
It's gonna be real.
All right.
It isn't a long walk.
It's not a long walk.
It won't be a long walk.
Please invite me.
Yes.
Okay, our minds are settled. May I have a motion to end the meeting? Jennifer, second. Okay.
We didn't do
Thank you.
the
Thank you.
Bereavement.
What happened? Oh, my apologies. Excuse me. I'm so happy to get out of here at an early time. Please excuse me. We will end with the bereavement list and a moment of silence.
Okay, we want to read the bereavement list and have a moment in silence for those who has passed, our loved ones and caregivers who worked in the school system, and our friends and family of school members. First is Larry Donaldson, a teacher from the Buffalo Public Schools who taught for over 5 years. December 18th, Lester Voller, father of Amanda Lucci, a special education teacher at School 99, and father-in-law of Michael Lucci, a computer support technician, the IT department. December 19th, Robert Niels Neslin, husband of Peggy Neslin, a retired Buffalo Public School secretary, father of Cindy Torton, manager of systems operations in the IT department, and Lori Conray, supervisor of security. December 21st, Ever H. Walker Sr., father-in-law of Julie Walker, a second grade teacher at school number 54. December 29th, Patricia Curtin, a retired Buffalo Public School teacher, wife of the late Robert J. Curtin, a retired Buffalo Public School administrator, and former mother-in-law of Julie Curtin, an English teacher at International Prep, school number 198. Lydia Lickfield, mother of Lisa Kane, administrative secretary for the board, mother-in-law to Sean King, City Hall staff, aunt of Carrie Murray, principal at Discovery School number 67. Shamara Davis, daughter of Patricia Danzler Kerner, retired telephone operator for the Buffalo Public Schools. Michael Capriccio, he's an investor in the city of Buffalo, who passed along with Mark Croce, a developer and investor here in the city of Buffalo and friends to the Buffalo Public Schools. Michael Murphy. Michael Murphy was the founder of the Valley Neighborhood Watch Alliance in South Buffalo, He passed away on January 11th, unexpectedly. And also, we would like to recognize the great Martin Luther King on his birthday. His 91st birthday is today. And we have a moment of silence and conclude. Thank you.
Okay, now, may I have a motion to close the meeting? Jennifer and Brian, thank you so much.
Lou, I'm putting your materials in your mailbox, okay?
Thank you very much. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye, Lou. Safe travels.
Thank you.
I didn't like this. I'm glad.